Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Open Mic with the MVP Marco. I am, of course, your host, the MVP Marco. And before I get to my guest, which, like I said, this is probably my biggest guest. Not to put down any of my guests I had before. I think this is about like the 17th or 18th episode. No one before you guys. Sorry, but this one for me is a big one. Not to put a lot of pressure on on the person coming up, but this is a big one for me. But anyway, before we start the show, I always like to say this show is brought to you by the Pod Foundation. What is the Pod Foundation, you ask? It's a collection of podcasters and content creators that consist of the Chick Foley Show, which I'm a part of. Shout out Sheena, Seth, and Jordan. Also, the Extra Cooler Show, Nick and friends. Nick's killing it. I said it last week. He's designing gear for FTR now. Like I said, a little show called AEW All In. You may have seen his design seen on there. So yeah, definitely check it out. And yeah, he's doing big things. We're very proud of Nick in the Extra Cooler crew. We also have the Turnbuckle Tavern. That's a part of our crew. I mean, they're definitely the workhorses of the Pod Foundation. They literally have a show every single day of the week. I'm on one of them actually, so I'm pulling double duty, technically triple duty if you count this show. 8 o'clock Thursday nights, the Raw Down on the Turnbuckle Tavern on YouTube. You get to see my musings on the WWE product, as well as my co-host Young Anthony, and the next show that's actually on the Pod Foundation, which is coming down the aisle with J Bone. So he rounds out the third on the Raw Down crew. So definitely check us out. Like I said, live every Thursday night at 8. And you can hear our musings on the WWE product, which is going to be a lot different now. Well, we won't get into those topics, but yeah, it's looking a little different. A dawn of a new era is upon us come tomorrow. But anyway, let me bring in my next guest. So this gentleman, to me, next to Sheena Chick Foley, is kind of like for me the pillars of the like IG wrestling community. I say they're the two pillars that kind of like boosted up that community, and then it just obviously now it's it's everywhere. So he'll probably disagree, but or he might not be. He might say yes, I'm taking all the credit. But let me bring in Justin from the Wrestling Classic. Justin, how are you, sir?
Oh, I am good, man. I am good. I just realized, first things first, I am gonna disagree a little bit. I do agree to an extent. I do think I am
Okay.
the internet, Instagram wrestling community for sure.
Yes.
Not the internet. That's a whole different line.
Yeah.
I'm a part of that too, but the Instagram community, I think I am, and I think Sheena's been one of them. And I just think there's been you said two of us. I think there was a handful of us. I think there was a bunch of pillars and people that were on here earlier on, some that aren't on here no longer.
Mm-hmm.
Some that grew up and actually became professional wrestlers.
Yeah, that's right.
In the business. But I think Instagram launched in 2011, 12.
Yeah.
I started my page in 2014, and most of the community was role play accounts and
Yep.
fans and some classic wrestling pages. But the pages becoming real people, I think I was one of the first people, and Sheena's one of those people. And interesting enough, I did not realize till you were doing this intro that in just this year alone, I've been on Extra Cooler Show, I've been on Turnbuckle Tavern. The Pod Foundation that I now heard about is getting me on their shows, and I don't usually do podcasts. I'll be honest with you. I did a lot of these in the past, and then I never understood why I did them. I'm probably gonna feel the same way after I do this. But I'm here. I'm used to hosting them. I'm used to going on the ones where we talk about certain ththings that are happening in wrestling or whatever.
Yep.
But I mean, the ones where I come on and I'm supposed to talk about myself, I always find so interesting.
I mean, I try to keep it lighthearted.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna delve into your your traumas and all that stuff. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that.
Can we just have a full-on therapy session right now?
I mean, if you want, I could try, but probably won't be successful in curing anything for you. But anyway, but yeah, that's kind of funny. That I know I did see your episode on the turnbuckle debate, which is pretty awesome. I've been on there a few times already. Yeah, the extra, like I said, it's you're kind of like an unofficial member of the Pod Foundation, just jumping on all these shows now. So I didn't
Yeah,
even
I
know
had no
you.
idea. And and I've had a great relationship for years with Sheena and her husband. They've been like I said, I feel like they've been around since I've been around. She was
Yep.
one of the first people to buy and rep one of my shirts when I put
Hmm.
up merchandise back in the day, which I need to put new merchandise out, guys. And also just like Nick of Extra Cool, like the amount
Hmm.
of things that either we've done together or he steered me in the right direction or I steered him into a direction of an opportunity. It's continuous. It's happening right now too. I don't want to spill the beans or anything, but there's some stuff Nick might be working on that I got involved with recently. It just it's it's a cool little community here in the Pod Foundation. Those turnbuckle guys are great. I never talked to them before. Similar to you, this is like our first time like face to
Yeah.
face conversation. That was the same thing with them, and it's just positive. Like obviously we all have opinions, but positive,
Hmm.
not dirt sheety, not trying to break the news, wrestling fans that just want to talk about wrestling and love the business. And once again, everyone has their opinions, what they like and don't like, but at the end of the day just want to see the business succeed, and they're not trying to get headlines and clicks and that type of stuff, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, that's what the idea behind the Pod Foundation was when Sheena and Seth actually, came up with the idea, and they were like, kind of scouring, looking around at like they pretty much went after podcasts that they listened to.
Mhm.
And then, they reached out to these individuals and said, hey, I mean, she's known, Extra Cooler for forever, since the beginning, pretty much.
I'm pretty
I think
sure
you
like
guys,
around since like 2015, 16.
yeah,
So
I
it's like
think you
we've
guys kind
all
of all kind of interacted and kind of like helped each other
yeah,
out in some way and kind of like propped each other up. But yeah, the idea just having those guys on board and stuff like that. And like I said, I've they brought me on board on their feed, on their show. I mean, I love those guys. They're a great bunch of dudes to talk wrestling with. And actually, you brought up a point I kind of want to ask you about, since you're kind of to me one of like the people in the forefront when it comes to wrestling, um in the wrestling space, dirt sheet stuff. What are your thoughts on like fans being so involved with like the backstage drama? I mean, i'm not a I'm not a drama person. I'd rather like not hear about that stuff. I like to live in kayfabe land, pretty much. That's me anyway. But like it's kind of disheartening sometimes, for me anyway, when you hear like the like with the tribalism that happens when when it comes to the backstage politics, when in reality you should be just focusing on what's on your screen. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. And I think just recently when MJF sat down with Dave LaGreca for the town hall that they did for Busted Open, Dave LaGreca is a great guy, and obviously MJF is, but
Yep.
I will have to say that now because he's like a good guy right now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I remember Max at some point during that town hall was like, "Yo, guys, like, just stop the tribalism. Like, we're all having fun. Like, you guys are picking WWE, AEW for the most part. Both the talents in both companies, they get along.
Mhm.
They're friends. Like, the more that both companies succeed, the better it is for both of us to elevate
Yeah.
ourselves. It's true, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's one thing that I think wrestling fans take into consideration is that like everything you hear on the dirt sheets, and this is okay. I'm gonna be like that old man right now. That's gonna be like back in my day, they used to be better. But like, I read the dirt sheets when I was a kid. I've never
Mhm.
been a Wrestling Observer newsletter subscriber. I didn't even know what that was until like I got older.
Yeah.
But when I was on the internet, and I'd go like backstagewrestling.com or call the hotline, and I found out like
Yep.
Paul Nash and Hogan got signed back to the WWE. Those rumors, like I would find those little tidbits here and there as a kid, but
Mhm.
like technically, I didn't really go on the dirt sheets a lot. And there was a point where I did a lot, but it was during those years. I always had like this dark period of professional wrestling, like
Yeah.
2007, 2011, where like,
Mm.
I wasn't watching every pay per view. SmackDowns were on Friday, but I watched every Monday and I watched Impact. But then I'd go read the SmackDown spoilers and see what else was going on, just kind of keep up with it. But because I wasn't watching so like avidly, but that all being said, I think now because of social media, and I'm a part of that community, right? Like
Mhm.
because of social media, like even if you want to avoid reading the news and the rumors, because that was the thing with me, right? Like I stopped once I got back into wrestling, like around 2011, 12, like fully, like CM Punk dropped the pipe bomb. I'm back in WWE.
Yeah.
Punk left. I started my page. In comes the Shield. Oh, this is all so much fun. Everything's great. Brian's popping off because I just didn't like the Cena era, but now we're past it. Kevin Owens guys all showing up. Like it was a great time. I actually stopped reading the dirt sheets. I just never went out of my way to go to any of those websites and read what was happening. I had buddies that did like, didn't you read that? Like Ryan said that on Pro Wrestling Show. I'm like, no, I don't, because what I learned was the less I know, the more I actually enjoy the product, the more I can genuinely be surprised. There's so many times something happens, and on my page, it's happened so many times where I will start acting really surprised on my page because I'm genuinely surprised because I didn't know. I'd be like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. That's so cool. And someone's in my comment section like, yo, Dave Meltzer said that was going to happen like 2 weeks ago, man. I didn't know that. You do because you were trying to find me. I didn't. You know, I wish wrestling had the same culture as people have when it comes to like some TV shows and movies where it's like, you know, when Avengers comes out, nobody wants anyone to leak the spoilers. Let us watch it. No one's like before the movie comes out being like, who's got the script? Who leaked it? Okay. Does anybody know what the cameos are? Find out. Like, it's not like the cool thing to put that stuff out. It's like the bad thing to do. But in wrestling, for some reason, it's the cool thing to do, to break the news, to figure it out first. Oh, CM Punk might be coming back. Oh, this person's backstage. Why do you want to know? And then you say you want to know. I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, a little bit of a tangent.
No, that's fine. No, go ahead.
You say you want to know, right? You say like, oh my God, wrestling's so predictable. Well, it is predictable if you want to know every little thing. Take away all the mystique. You say kayfabe. Then it's the same people that complain that, like, oh, like, you know, like we already know this is happening. We know that's happening. Oh, CM Punk, this brawl. Oh, the elite, yada, yada, yada. Oh, Vince McMahon, sexual assault. Oh, Vince is backstage. Vince isn't backstage. He wrote the show today. He didn't write the show today. And then at the same time, those are the same people being like, well, why is Rhea Ripley posting with Buddy Matthews that they're married? Whatever happened to Kayfabe? That's the most hypocritical shit I've ever heard in my life.
That's hilarious.
Is it fake? Do you want to know? Do you not want to know if the wrestlers do it? You get mad at them if the dirt sheets do it. It's okay. That's what their jobs is. And I think I know I don't want to like jump ahead, but one of your questions coming up might be like, oh, like how'd you start your page, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into details about that, but I'll say this: when I started my page, when I thought I was sitting there and I was working at a phone booth, bored as hell, in a mall that's dead as hell, at all day to kill with a few customers at a time, at like 22 years old, I remember being like, oh, I want to do something. Like I kept saving, and I have done this. Even like I said, no matter, even if I say I fell out of wrestling for a bit, I still loved professional wrestling. So I was like saving all these cool pictures, and I had a marketing degree, and as I was working in that phone place, I had a few contracts doing social media for some places. And I was like, man, I'm just gonna build my own thing. I'm like, I want to post these wrestling pictures somewhere. I want to post it where I can share with other people, and like we can all look at this stuff, right? And not to jump ahead of the story, but I'll say when I was deciding where to do it, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, like where do I want to fit in? I'm like, well, I looked at Twitter. And I'm like, Twitter, even back in 2014, is a place where people like to complain.
Yep.
And like it's less positive. It's where people like to complain or parody, comment, make fun of things. You know, like it was more negative. It was the dirt sheet culture on Twitter. That was the know-it-alls were on Twitter. The haters were on Twitter. The people that say everything, you know, they were on Twitter. So I'm like, and it was already like a market, right? It was already like a saturated market. Reddit, I didn't really mess with back then. I didn't really know what it was. Facebook, I was already went into that space. It was like for your aunts and uncles, and it was no longer for us kids. So like, so then I was like, okay, well, Instagram's new. It doesn't have like, you know, that space, like that wrestling page that is like, you know, that is the home of wrestling pages. It doesn't have you know, when I was a kid, I used to go on those forums and I'd fight with people and I'd comment on stuff and jump on a thread and we'd be on the message boards. And I'm like, I missed that. I didn't do it for a lot of years. I even did that like silly role play stuff on MSN groups where you'd go on there and you pick a wrestler and you cut promos and you get booked in matches. Like I did all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I want to create a space for wrestling fans to have fun, man. And it wasn't just about like, yeah, you know, initially I didn't post any news. I never gave anyone updates on the modern day wrestling. It really was just all classic wrestling. Then I started mixing some of the new stuff because I liked it. Then I came to the idea of like, well, I can make the old fans understand what's happening today, and you know, the younger fans know what we grew up on. And then eventually now it's like a mix of everything. Then I did start doing updates, but I still don't like if something's a rumor or if it's like negative news, like I won't share it. I remember when this stuff happened with Soraya, aka Paige, I never posted anything about it. Any of this Punk stuff, outside of him actually getting fired, I didn't post about that drama. I don't think that's
Yeah.
my place in this community. I think the place in the community for me is keep people updated, throwing some classic stuff at them. Obviously, the women stuff, which is controversial and polarizing. But when I stop, then the people get mad. When I keep going, then the religious people get mad. But all the women are in on it. But that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
Like the women's wrestlers all follow the page. They send me the pictures. I talk to them. They know who I am. They've met me. All the models they post, I've befriended them over the years. It's not like it's like, oh my god. But anyways, I'm not a big fan of the whole dirt sheet. I understand the purpose. I understand they make money. I will never disregard anybody's hustle. I've met Sean Rossap,
Yeah.
met Dave Meltzer. I've met them all. They're all super cool people. That's their job. They're making some bank off it. People want to know. I mean, it is like everything, right? Like shows like ET Hollywood and these Access Hollywood shows exist because people want to
Yep.
know what's going on in people's personal lives. But it's like I think it kind of ruins wrestling. I think people can blame so many things on what ruined wrestling. It was UFC or people found out it was fake. I think it was the dirt sheets becoming a very public thing. I think it was the internet that
Yeah.
really ruined wrestling. Social media, to be able to like Google something, like if we thought it was fake or not, it was word of mouth. Now they can just go, is wrestling fake? And you'll find out. Like,
Yeah.
like it's a different era. So I think to really enjoy professional wrestling, to genuinely enjoy it and not be so analytical about it. Not everybody needs to be an analyst. Not everybody needs to be a podcaster. Not everybody needs to break down what's going on. Not everybody needs to be an armchair, booker. And I'm saying that as like I do all that stuff. So like,
Yeah. We all do.
I'm one of those people that think I am. So like, I'm not saying that like they're trying to like throw shots at anybody. I'm like, but not everybody has to. Like, people can still just watch it and enjoy it for what it is. I say I
Yeah.
do it because I had to continue to grow what I was already doing and
Yep.
adapt or perish. But for the most part, if you're just still a fan chilling and if you got a Monday night free, you're gonna tune in Raw. Like, just enjoy it. Stop looking into it. Like, just enjoy it for what it is. You'll enjoy it so much more. Trust me. The reason why children love professional wrestling is because they're still innocent to them. It's still real to them. They believe it. They actually still suspend their disbelief and just enjoy the show and the characters without caring about what they're like. Like when people start, there's a whole group of people now, I think, that dislike CM Punk. Not because they dislike CM Punk, the character, the wrestler, the guy that cuts the promos. They dislike the fact that he has beef with the elite. Now CM Punk's a cancer. If he's a cancer to that locker room, is he a cancer to your life?
No, exactly. Yeah.
Are you in that locker room? Are you going there week to week, sitting there having to deal with the Phil Brooks's antics? No, you aren't.
Nope.
So why does it matter to you?
Yeah. The thing about that too is like, with those types of stories, it's one-sided, right? Like the news you're hearing, it's the saying goes, it's your side, my side, and then the truth, right?
Yeah.
You're only hearing one side.
Yeah,
You're not hearing the other two sides.
Firsthand experience, firsthand, like, here's the inside scoop. Nobody from CM Punk's side has said anything about what happened.
Exactly. You're just hearing one
It's
side of
whoever
that
works
whole
at
argument.
AEW and whoever wants to talk about it that work there. No one that is actually gonna be like, like Dax, Cash, Punk.
Yeah,
Lars,
what do they have to say?
nobody's really said anything about it.
No. Which I respect too, that they're not coming out and like, saying anything. And it's like
I've never got to talk about it on air yet, this whole CM Punk situation. And I'm a Punk fan for life, and I enjoy the Young Bucks. I think Kenny's tremendous. So I'm not like fuck the elite or anything. I like both sides. But one side does have more of a relationship with this internet community than the other side.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, and if you're just reading what's on the internet, that's like saying, like, say if I was in a fight with someone, but you were getting all the news from the Wrestling Classic page.
I mean,
that's my page. Like, these are my people. Like,
yep. And if you think of and if you think about it, he's Punk, the wrestling boom from when he left is like that whole 7 years he was gone was the big wrestling booming on the internet and social media. So he's not going to be like taken in by that community as fondly as the elite and all those guys there. He's kind of missed out on the whole thing
while he was gone, but they were the guys that were they took advantage of
exactly
the Meltzers of the world of like, oh well, we're not in WWE, we're not in some big company, but if we're cool with Meltzer, he'll write about us, our matches, we'll get over. How we're gonna make one of our pile drivers called the Meltzer driver. We're gonna wish we get 5 stars. We're gonna make 5 stars the culture. Like, and I listen. I think that's dope. I appreciate the hustle. That's a very smart business tactic to get you guys stuff over, get people talking, keeping that buzz going. I'll never no matter what, like I will say, like, whatever they did is fine. I just saying, like, to your point, only one side of the story's been out and only one narrative has been out this entire time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And listen, I've had people close to me that came to me and was like, he's a cancer, like, damaged goods. That's cool. I don't know. As a fan, I wish he was still there. As a person that wants AEW to succeed, okay, maybe it was the right decision. Maybe if it was causing a toxic atmosphere, cool. But I also am not there. If that's the case, sweet.
Yep.
But as a fan, I wish he was still there. I wish he was still running Collision. I wish we were still getting that Collision we were getting at the beginning. But some people don't have the and someone said this to me straight up, like, they don't have the choice to look at it as a fan. They have to look at it from a professional point of view, and to them, that's how they felt, and that's fair because you have a connection to that company more than I do, so you can't be a fan, right? So it's like, I think, let's move Punk and the Elite stuff all to the side. I always said this, right? Like, and this is where I think it all boils down to, right? People will be like, oh, like, why, do you dislike Dave Meltzer? Like, do you think Dave Meltzer's a fraud? Because, now with all the podcasts that come out, Bruce Pritchard's, Bischoff's, they'll be like, we found out how many things in his newsletter was just fake or made up. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Anybody that listens to any of these people's podcasts, like, that was BS. Nobody said that. Like, that this guy was making stuff up to put in the newsletter because nobody was debunking him, and people were reading it and just believing it. Like,
Yep.
Now he's getting debunked a bunch, and then now there's the whole drama about 5 stars. Like, he's never given Kurt Angle a 5-star match, just personally, but no, Kenny Omega's got like 7-star matches and yada yada yada. I always said this: one, I will never disregard Dave Meltzer's hustle. Genius guy.
Yep.
Would have profit off the wrestling business for over 30 years and get a bunch of people to subscribe to his newsletter, whether he was putting truth or BS in it. 2, I have nothing against Dave Meltzer. I've never had anything against the man Dave Meltzer. It's the people that took his word for gospel. It's the people that can't form their own opinions. It's the people that when they see something written, like the people that thought anything he said was actual fact.
Yeah.
If a match is 5 stars, it doesn't mean it has to be 5 stars to you.
Yep.
He said that Stadium Stampede match at All In was like 4.25 stars. I thought that was like a -1-star match. I didn't know what the hell. But that's my opinion. That's his opinion. Like, it was always the people that kind of like were the people that like were ride or die for Dave Meltzer that I thought was like, just form your own opinions and just agree to disagree. That's the biggest thing I think the wrestling fandom has, is nobody knows how to agree to disagree.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right. Like, you could, like, I don't know if you ever followed that page, Wrestling Historian.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Hates CM Punk. Wasn't an MJF fan ever. We talk about it all the time, but the one thing about our debates is that we always agree to disagree. We never offend each other. He knows I'm an MJF fan. He knows I'm a Punk fan. I know he's not. He'll message me talking crap. I'll message him talking crap. But we're friends at the end of the day because we know that, like, we can agree to disagree and just go on with our lives and still be friends and talk about stuff.
Exactly. That's how it should be anyway. I mean, like, especially now with like, the reason why I brought that question up was because, in that same interview, MJF talked about, there's a boom, like a wrestling boom right now. And if we're in the middle of something that's like kind of unprecedented in the sense where you have, back in the Attitude Era, you had WCW, WWF at the time. And now you have multiple, like, not that they're on the same echelon as WWE, but you have AEW, you have GCW, you have Impact, which just celebrated their 1,000. That's insane. Like,
you have alternatives.
You have alternatives, and I posted on your post on Instagram that Eric Bischoff quote about wrestling being a buffet, and you pick and choose what you like, and you're not forcing anyone to eat the food that you're eating. When you're in a buffet line, that person next to you, they're picking what they like, and you're picking what you like, and you move on with your business. And that's how I always seen wrestling as. That's how it should be anyway.
I mean, I grew up on WCW and WWF. Those are the first 2 things I remember. I didn't really get exposed to ECW till later. But like those, I saw it by accident a few times at like 2 a.m. when I was like 8, 9 years old on TNN.
Yeah.
But that was in like 1999, 2000. Like it was already like late ECW. So I didn't get the ECW buzz. I mean, I also like had on tape like the time they showed up on Raw and Sabu fell off the Raw side and stuff like that. My brother taped all that stuff, but I just didn't know ECW like that. But WCW and WWF was my stuff, and it's like it was missing for a lot of years. We had TNA for excuse me, we had TNA for like a minute, and I just think when I started my page, I was like it was really WWE heavy. TNA wasn't doing that
Yep.
well. A lot of people were tuning into New Japan as the alternative.
Yep.
Ring of Honor was good in like 2014, but around like 2017 just kind of was not.
Yep.
And then now I think we do have a lot of alternatives, and I think
Yeah.
I don't see it that much on Instagram. Maybe I'm just like turning a blind eye to it. I don't know, but I know on Twitter like there was like pages dedicated to like favorite AEW, FWW, and then there's some dedicated to love WWE, FAW. And it's on Twitter that I see the most
Yeah.
than anywhere else. And it's also in my Discord. I have a Discord, and you guys can click the link in my bio and join. There's people in there that are like that too, but it's just like I don't get it. Like I want AEW to succeed because they'll always make WWE have to step up their game, whether they want to
Yep.
admit it or not. It
Yeah.
has to put them on their toes to like be good and have something
Yeah.
going on, to not be outshone by this little company that's a family run to this big corporate company that's like got shareholders and sponsors, and now your Endeavor is going to own it and yada. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
WWE's in its own stratosphere, and it is getting poked by this little company over. It is, whether you like it or not. Like it gave a place for talent to go and make money and leave their company. It's given people an alternative to, if you don't like this product, you can watch this product. So like whether they're smaller or bigger, like they are an alternative. And I think as long as they succeed, like you think that WWE isn't like gearing up so hard to make WrestleMania in Philly have like even 1,000 or 2,000 more fans there than they had at Wembley.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like that's it. Like if you say there's no like, I'm not saying there's like direct. Like I don't think WWE has anything to fear in terms of like going out of business or like crumbling.
Yeah. Yeah.
That fear does not exist. Them making money hand over fist is not a problem to WWE. But for AEW to get better stats than them, like
Yeah.
that's sort of a we'll show them type of thing that will maybe bother them a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Losing talent is something that might bother them a little bit. The littler things, like like someone being like, I don't want to resign here because I know I can go there and probably make double the money
Yep.
from this guy that's a big fan of me and work less dates.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the competitive part comes. There's no like AEW is going to shut down WWE and it's the 90s again, and there was still a family-owned business where they're allegedly taking the water coolers out of Stamford. That's
Yeah.
never going to happen unless AEW like fully changes its business model, because that's a whole different topic in a personal opinion way. Because I feel like they don't try to grow their fan base; they just cater to the ones they already have.
Yep.
But I think AEW is a threat to them in a small way. And
Oh
I
yeah,
think
definitely.
but I think fans should want both of them to succeed. I think fans should want to see WWE get better. I think fans should want to see AEW to keep trying to compete with WWE. Like the AEW should try to get to the level 110%. Mocking them for trying isn't cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I was gonna say, so as far as because you kind of already, well, we can get into a little bit of the page and stuff like that, but even before that, as far as your wrestling fandom is concerned, like how did it start? Not in the generic way where like, oh, I seen this Hulk Hogan body slam or whatever, but like there's always a person or there's always something that brings you into wrestling. Can you recall who that?
My brother was a wrestling fan. So
Okay.
my brother's 10 years older than me. So when I was born, he was already 10 years old. He was a full-on Hulkamaniac 80s child.
Yep.
He had all the LGN Hasbro figures, magazines, and he had a habit that I also picked up when I was like in my teenage years, where he would record everything that was on TV. So he'd record the Raws and the Nitros and the Thunders, and obviously some missing here and there. But like I grew up with all these VHS tapes and like the old scam of the 2 VCRs, go rent a video from Blockbuster, tape WrestleMania on your own tape. Like I had all these tapes. I still have these boxes of tapes in my closet. I don't even know why I still keep them. I don't even think I have a VCR, but it's just like this tie I have to them because that's how I became a wrestling fan.
Yep.
And people like, when do you remember how old you are? I'm like, I guess from as far as I can remember. Like, I remember when my first actual vivid memories of seeing wrestling on TV was like 1996. Like, I feel like that was when I remember like seeing Raw live or Superstars live, and Saturday Night WCW and all that. Like 96 was that year. Like, I remember seeing it.
Okay.
And watching, but I'm like, prior to that, I was seeing it all the time because of my brother. I was around. I had all the toys. Like, I had it, I had my X-Men and my Power Ranger dolls that I was doing wrestling moves on and all this other stuff. But I had all these wrestlers. I just I was in the bathtub playing with 2 rubber LGN wrestling figures. Like, I've always been a wrestling fan. So like, he could sometimes get mad because he doesn't watch it at all no more. And he's just grown up and he's a serious adult in real estate. But
yeah.
He's always like, it's my fault that you're into this stuff. It's but it was because of him, and that was how I got into it. So it sounds cliche, but I feel like I've been watching it since I was born because I guess it's always just kind of been on.
Yeah,
he was always watching it. He was always watching his tapes, had his stuff, and I was just a little kid around. We had a sister in the middle, obviously, but I was just a kid around. So
was your sister into wrestling at all? Did she catch the bug? Or
she was by default, she was around it all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, my older brother, she had to watch it when she was little, and then as a younger brother, when I was little, then I wanted to watch it. I'll tell you, she really, when it got really soap opera-y, like during like the McMahon Helmsley era, and like Stephanie, and then Stephanie slapped Linda, and then Linda Stephanie, and then Shane. My sister was really into that era, like 99, 2000, 2001, where it got really dramatic. Like, she was a fan during that. Austin Rock, DX, McMahon, Helmsley, like she was actually like a legitimate fan during that. I remember like her watching like SmackDown Raw with me, like wanting to know what happened next with these people. Like, for the most part, she wasn't. But she's been around it the whole time too, right? Like, it just is what it is.
Did you hold any connection? Because you said like that your vivid memories 96. Do you hold any connection or to like the golden era guys, like the Hogans, the Machos, 100%. The Ultimate Warriors? Okay.
I almost feel like I grew up with that anyways, because I had all those tapes. Right? Like, no, I was a regular kid. I was a big hockey fan when I was a kid, being Canadian from Vancouver, like big hockey fan, hockey cards. I grew up in a cul-de-sac with a bunch of friends. We played street hockey and cops. And I was like, I'm a regular kid, don't get me wrong. But like, and I loved the Rugrats, and I loved my animated X-Men series, and all my TV shows, Tailspin, and as I got older, Family Matters, and Boy Meets World is one of my favorite. I'm a regular daddy's kid, but I just always loved wrestling. It just was a part of me, right? So like, even when I was, like I said, the LGN figures were like Iron Sheik and Hogan and Savage. It wasn't like, I had the 90s figures too, but I mean, so I grew up on like all those tapes were like Primetime Wrestlings and Wrestling Challenges and WrestleMania 1 to 6 on VHS and the first ever SummerSlams, and I watched those over and over again. So like when I was at home and it was raining outside, I was watching wrestling tapes. Once Rugrats finished at 4:30 after school, maybe I'd pop in a wrestling tape. Like, it was just kind of, I had them. So everyone's like, because when I started my page, I disclosed my age, right? When I first started the Wrestling Classic, nobody knew my face, my name, how old I was, because I felt like I had to be very disclosed of who I was so people didn't judge me for what I knew. Because sometimes when someone younger starts posting about stuff that happened before the time, people are like, how do you know? You weren't even there. Because I do. You know what I mean? I love this stuff. I've done the research. I watched it. I know, and nobody could judge me because they didn't know how old I was. Now people know, and it's kind of like, it's a different time. I think when I started my page, wrestling was in 2014 wasn't as popular as it is right now, or even in the last few years. I think I used to say back then, like, you could go anywhere and you could wear a Stone Cold shirt or a DX shirt or a Rock shirt or some OG vintage shirt, and it was cool. But if you were like 21, 22 years old and you walked into your university or college wearing a John Cena shirt, you probably get laughed at.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it wasn't cool. Like, I thought like it's so weird that anybody can wear any sort of sports jersey and it's okay. With
Yeah.
football, no one's gonna judge you. And then we're in such a weird culture too at that point too. Like nerd culture was so popular. Like, you could be wearing a Pokemon retro shirt or
Yep.
some Marvel superhero thing, and nobody would judge you. But you could be wearing a 2014 wrestling shirt.
Yeah.
We'd be like, "Oh, you still watch that shit?"
Yeah. It's like,
You know
it's
what I
like
mean? And then I think that's so weird, right? Like
I never looked at it that way, which is kind
we
of
went from, like,
funny.
we went from like wrestling being cool in the 90s and early 2000s, even like the 80s, to like that John Cena PG era. And listen, man, I don't even want to get into that too much. I don't hate John Cena. I because the person, I hate his character, but I also know it was the company that needed that character.
Yes.
A bunch of
Yeah.
bad stuff happened in that company, but
Yep.
that character was never catered to me. It was too
Nope.
cheesy, and he won way too much that I will never like it. But that's because it wasn't catered to me. I
Yes.
think John Cena, the man, is the man. Great work ethic. I write the stuff in the caption. I'm like, oh, great guy. I'd have a drink with him. I'd hang out with him. Great work
Yeah.
ethic. Company, I'd hire him. But John Cena sucks. He's not for me. And all people read is John Cena sucks. He's not for me. Come at me in my comment section. What do you mean he sucks? I'm like, no, I'm saying like he's probably a great dude. That character sucked, and it continues to suck. And it's the same thing today. It's the same promo, and people just come at me. But I'm like, no, I'm complimenting him though. And I know it's not him. It was the company needed John Cena to be John Cena after like all the Benoit tragedy happened, and then this happened, and like we need a faceless company that's Mr. PG. Like who's gonna grab it and carry it? John Cena was the guy that took that. Like he took that road. And he did it very well. It just was never for me. It was for children. The problem now is those children are now like 21, 22, 23 years old fighting on the internet because that was their Hulk Hogan Stone Cold, and they think he's like, and they don't even see the propaganda when it's right in front of them. Literally, like the photo section on WWE, where it goes like in quotations, LA Knight versus the Midge with quotation, the greatest wrestler of all time, quotation, John Cena as a special referee. How do you guys not see this propaganda? They're telling you who the greatest of all time is the way they want you to believe it. Like, let's forget about Hogan now. Let's forget John Cena, guys. So every time they bring him back, you think you're seeing something special. It's called marketing. But a lot of y'all don't get that.
No, it's true. It's very true.
But back to what I was saying. Yeah, it was the tapes and stuff. And I love the 80s stuff. And it's hard to like I said, like 96, 97 was like the earliest stuff I remember. And like the NWO was happening. I still think, and watching it live as a little kid, and I was only like 7 years old, and it was crazy to me. But then also going back and watching so much of it, I still think, personal opinion. Some people might agree with me, some might not. I think 1997 is the greatest year in wrestling. WCW and WWF were just popping off. And as far as I've seen, even ECW was popping off. So like,
yeah, it's true.
Because like you had those Sting Hogan angle, you had the Hart Foundation and DX coming together, Austin on the rise. Like it wasn't full blown Attitude Era, but the seeds were being planted, and you saw the change happening in WWF. And Shawn kind of turned into like the 90s on drug Shawn that we all remember. And like Brett turned heel, and Austin was coming up, and Vince was actually becoming a character. And you're like, 97 and WWF is a little wild, man. They're getting kind of dark here. That Thorn in the Eye theme came, and that new Raw stage came, and like it was changing. And on the flip side, you had the NWO, you had Hogan and Savage. Like I couldn't watch that and not know who these guys were back in the golden era. How am I supposed to watch Hogan and Savage and not be like, I watch Hogan and Savage because I was allowed to watch Hogan and Savage. And my parents, my brother were like, that's what they knew, right? Like
yeah, but
yeah, no, I love 97. And yeah, I have a big appreciation for the golden era. And I am sorry, I went off track like 4 times.
No, that's totally fine. That's no, I appreciate it. You definitely the only reason why I asked because of your name, the Wrestling Classic, is obviously after the pay-per-view that they had around, I believe it was like 85 or something like that. The Wrestling Classic is
what's your ethnicity?
I'm half black, half white, so I'm a mixed breed, as they call it.
So I was eating something, like I was going to tell you what I was eating. I was eating this thing called a paratha. It's like Indian food. I remember I was sitting there, I was eating this, I was watching the Wrestling Classic on the network that I legally got in Canada.
Yep.
And I was like, no, I'm going to make this wrestling page. I want to post some pictures. And I named it after what I was watching. I'm like, that would be a sweet wrestling page name.
Wow.
And everyone's like, oh, why don't you post classic wrestling? Like, isn't this supposed to be a classic wrestling page? I'm like, no, there is a classic wrestling page. It's literally called classic wrestling. This is the Wrestling Classic.
Yeah, I mean, I like it.
doesn't mean that it has to be old pictures of classic wrestling. Like I just
True.
and also it's gotten to the point if you followed me long enough, like I've become the person. I am the
Yeah.
wrestling classic. It's not really like the wrestling classic of this page. It's like, oh, like people see me and they call me the wrestling classic, which is weird to me. I mean,
Yeah.
that it just is, like, I remember the first time I interviewed a local wrestler and I mentioned, like, it's so weird. Sometimes I bump people and they're like, yo, classic. And I'm like, it's so weird. And he's like, do you know like how many wrestlers would like that are coming up would die to have a nickname like the classic, but it was just like given to them? I'm like, that's so true. I guess
Yeah,
it's
it's an awesome name. Like it's like I said, it's just it just flows well, and it has that it has that tie to like that in between period between WrestleMania and WrestleMania 2, which is I think that it wasn't really seen as a big huge pay-per-view between the two, but it's kind of like that bridge between what was to come. It had the main event. I believe it was like Roddy Piper and Hogan, um, which obviously they have their storied rivalry, and Junkyard
They
Dog
had a
and
few things,
Macho
but the
Man.
wrestling classic I think was it was Savage was on WrestleMania 1, so it had to be before WrestleMania 2, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was like it was
1985. It was
yeah, it was
November.
like
Yeah, that
85.
was
Yeah,
November.
November 7th, 85, I believe
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was.
it's like November
Yeah, just looked it
1985.
up.
That means WrestleMania 1 already happened. I just
Yep.
remember it being like one of those things that they were testing something for.
Yes. Yeah, that's what
I
it
remember
looked like.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was like them to try to test if they could do like pay-per-views in November or something. Because I know the first WrestleMania was closed circuit.
Yep.
I don't know if the second WrestleMania was still closed circuit. I wasn't alive back then. That was like pre-pay-per-view. This is
Yeah,
the
me neither.
you have to like either like call and get the closed circuit, like pay for it, or you could go to actual like theaters and watch closed circuit programs like WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It was a different beast back then, but that was the case. And I think the Wrestling Classic was something they were testing out to see if that
Yeah.
was, and back to the other question too, like Macho Man Randy Savage is my favorite wrestler of all time. And I didn't even
Oh,
get to
yeah.
like experience Savage in the 80s, but I felt like I did because of all the stuff I had. And then my first memories of Savage is also very colorful Savage in 96 and then NWO Savage, right? So it's like
Ah,
it's
okay.
very like and I kind of feel like I remember, but I was too little to like confirm. Like I feel like I remember watching, like, do you remember the old like WWF Mania with like Savage and Todd Pettingill? And they
Yes.
you can find him on YouTube. I just like remember, like maybe I had him on one of the tapes. I don't know, but I just feel like I remember that Savage too. But it's probably because of the tapes. But I just like he stood out to me the most out of everyone, even over Hogan. Even as a kid, I didn't like Hogan that much. I wasn't even like a Warrior guy. I don't think I really cared about the big bodybuilding.
Yeah, like as Big E coined it, the big meaty men slapping meat.
Yeah, I
You
don't
weren't
think
a big fan of the.
care about that much. I think I care more about like your ability to be a character and over the top. Because like, okay,
Yeah.
I love Brett and Sean. Brett and Sean are my top 5, right?
Yep.
But even Brett, very pink, very glasses. Sean, very
Straightforward.
village person stripper, like like the
Yeah.
stuff.
Very contrasting. They very.
Well,
They,
then that captured my imagination the most. That made
yeah.
me like those two are like Bret was like a childhood hero of mine. Bret Hart was like, I'm from Canada. That was like the coolest person.
Oh.
Like Bret symbolized what being cool was. Like you want to be like Bret. He was like a human that was bigger than life. And then Sean was like, like the 96, 97, Sean was like, this guy's cool, but there's something risky about him. Like,
Yeah. He was
and then it was like he was like the trouble, like But the two that captured my imagination the most, and the two that were like instant favorites of mine because of their characters and who they were Savage and The Undertaker. Like those
okay.
are my two favorite. Like there was a point I did not watch SmackDown every week because they moved it to Fridays, and I was a teenager and I had plans, and this was
Yeah.
and I wasn't recording on tapes anymore, and it wasn't like you could come home and watch every single clip that happened on that show on YouTube, Instagram. Like if you missed it, you missed it, and you can get like maybe 30-second clips on WWE.com. Like I would do my best to just see if Undertaker was scheduled to be on the show. I want to see what the Undertaker was doing. Still, as I got older, it's just one of those characters that.
Yeah.
I can't. I remember talking to someone like, "Oh, like what were your favorite Undertaker matches from like the '90s?" And I'm like, I could. I don't know. Like, I just don't think The Undertaker. I don't know if the matches are really even that good, to be honest. Now going back, there's some
No.
bangers. There's some bangers, like the Taker Brett matches from SummerSlam in England
Yep.
and Taker and Shawn. But as a kid, I didn't care about the matches like that. I cared about
Yeah.
all I cared about the matches for when I was a kid was to see how the story played out and if my favorite would win.
Yeah. No, that's how it should
People,
have
the
went
culture
anyway.
now is like people care about the matches so much.
Yeah.
And
And
now
that,
you have a whole company like AEW that just books matches that people want to see with zero substance, with no reason to
yeah.
care about them 90% of the time.
Yeah.
10% will be a proper feud or storyline. But most
I-
of the time, it's just a match being booked for the case of it being a match.
yeah. See, I'm old school in the sense where I talk about this all the time on pretty much on the Chick Foley show and on Raw Down, where I'm a storyline guy.
Same.
I'm a character guy. Like, and that's what wrestling will always be. You can't, not that AEW's, trying to make it a real sport per se, but like
That's out the
the
window.
win-loss record, that doesn't
That's the
work in wrestling, because you watch wrestling to escape into the stories and the characters, not into
especially
win-loss records.
especially in North America.
Yes, exactly.
This place feeds off drama. Okay.
Yeah.
There's millions of people that watch soap operas in like primetime television, early morning TV. Like people want to know what's happening in entertainment. People want to
Yep.
know who Kendall Jenner is dating every week. People want to know like
Yeah.
what Kanye is doing. People, the news is basically heels and baby faces depending what side you're on. American news.
I
My
always
sister's
say,
like, why do you watch it? Like, she's like, do you like, oh, like, she, what are you like? Why do you watch what's like, why do you also watch Fox? But also, I mean, because I'm like, technically, they're cutting promos on each other.
oh my god, dude, that's you're just like
Yeah.
we're like on the same wavelength, because I always say, as a wrestling fan, when you're watching like any type of news programs or any type of show, like you watch one of those like housewife shows and all that stuff, like the Real Housewives or whatever, like your brain already, as a wrestling fan, goes into heels, faces, promos.
Who's
That's
right?
literally what happens when you watch
Who's in
anything.
this battle? Like, you know,
Especially in politics, same thing. It's heels, faces, promos.
like Don Lemon's on CNN crying like a baby face, and Sean Hannity's on Fox cutting a scathing promo on the
Yeah,
government
it's
like a big corporate heel. It's wrestling.
it's literally everything's wrestling.
Then, you know when everybody came out of the woodwork when UFC popped off and like, oh, you still watch wrestling? I watch UFC. I'm like, how do they build up every single one of their matches? These
yeah,
guys hugging and kissing each other and shaking hands every time they beat the crap out of each other after a fight, and they just
yep.
make bucket loads of money. But they build you up with this fake rivalry for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Well, they're cutting wrestling promos on each other and they hate each other. But then, they fight each other. Someone wins and they're hugging each other and be like, I respect you, man. It's wrestling.
Like, it's literally 101, wrestling
White
101.
Wrestling and implemented the drama fact of it to build his fights, to build draws, and to get people to buy his pay-per-views and come to his shows. But it's just real. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They took the part of wrestling that really works in North America and made it work for real fighting. And we went backwards and we're like, hey, who cares about the drama part? Give us the fake fighting. And it's so weird to me.
It
and
is.
I love a good wrestling match as much as the next person. Like, I love a good wrestling match. I think today's wrestlers are way more athletic than previous generations of wrestlers. Previous generations of wrestlers will even tell you, these guys today, they do stuff we would never even have to do. And then I forget who I was talking to, but someone's like, I don't believe in the term ring psychology. It doesn't exist. It does exist. It's just like you guys don't care about it no more. You'd rather do flips and kicks and get the crowds to pop than. I think Randy Orton said it best. Like, the wrestlers today, Randy didn't say it exactly like this, but what Randy Orton said is, you should control the fans shouldn't control you. That was pretty much what Randy Orton said.
Yeah.
But my point to that is, like, I think wrestlers today, like, they let the fans control them because they want them to stay high. It's okay to bring them down and then take them back up, and then bring them down and take them back up. Nowadays, wrestlers want to be like up, down, down.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's no like up and down. I think the best, and I think like obviously one of the most popular things in wrestling today is the bloodline, the WWE, right? Like, that's like, everybody tunes in. Like, sometimes SmackDown sucks from top to bottom, but the best segment's a bloodline segment. Like, that's all. They've dedicated an hour of that show to Bloodline on more than one occasion. And people stayed tuned in the entire hour. Roman's matches aren't that great.
No.
I forget I'm like, you know what I wait for in the Roman matches? I was like the last like 5 minutes of it because that's
Yes, because that's when you know it's going to get crazy. Yeah.
that's what you know you're there for. It's the last 5 minutes of everything goes crazy. And there's some false finishes, things getting broken. So I'm like, the first bit's gonna be headlocks and chin locks and
Yeah.
trash talking and walking around.
Yeah. Walk.
But like nobody's gonna complain about it at the end of the day.
No, because he
Because that
keeps you
last 5
glued.
minutes are worth the wait, and
Yep.
they understand that. They have you
Yeah.
wrap. You go make a sandwich, come back, and for those last 5-10 minutes, and you'll
Yeah.
think it's the greatest match ever.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's smart, Because
Yep.
sometimes I watch AEW. I was in a trashing AEW podcast. I love AEW, guys. Let me just I love it. There's just some things I wish they did a little bit better, and I think they were on track with it on Collision for the first few weeks there. Where it's like not everything like needs to be bang, 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 bang all the time.
Yep.
Sometimes I have to watch Dynamite twice to even know what happened on that show. At
Yeah.
matches, I watch like 2 times to really even know what happened in that match. Someone like, "Oh, that match was a bang." I'm like, "Dude, they went to a commercial break. I got totally taken out of it. They came back, and I I just think it's just a case of the modern day fans. I don't think because I think me and you, a little bit of the older heads now, be like, "Oh, I don't know, it's moving too fast, and these guys are just wrestling and flipping." And I understand that because I think that's true. I'm not gonna lie about that. I probably am that older fan that thinks I have no idea what's going on. I can go on like 1990s wrestling or 80s wrestling, early 2000s wrestling, 2006, 7, and I would sit there and be like, wow, this is like so easy to digest.
Yeah.
Today, and it's everything. I'll tell you, since it sounds, so I don't mean to cut you off, but since it just sounds like I'm shitting on AEW, I hate how WWE feels so overly produced. Like it feels so.
I hear that a lot.
It feels so perfect. Like everything happens exactly how it's supposed to happen. There's that lack of like excitement that anything can happen on a WWE show.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening is like exactly how they wanted to happen. The stage is set exactly how they want to be.
Yep.
Lit up like it's this big production. Like you turn into like a Raw that's on my TV right now, and it's like they're putting on a show for you, and it doesn't feel authentic and punful. It doesn't feel raw. It feels very cooked, like well done, perfectly grilled.
Produced.
Yeah. I will give AEW this. I tune in every week, and I look forward to it every week because I'm like, anything could happen on the show.
Yeah, you don't know what the hell's going to happen on that show sometimes.
Like anything could happen. They can give us a card, and something crazy could happen.
It's a Vince Russo crash TV, as he used to call it back in the day. But I want to bring it back to a little bit when you're speaking about the social media part of it, when you chose Instagram over like Twitter and Facebook and stuff, because we have like an inside joke on the Chick Foley show where I run the Twitter page, and Sheena runs the Chick Foley, obviously the Chick Foley Instagram page, but she doesn't want to deal with the with the toxicity of the Twitter world or the Twitterverse, as they say. So she gave me those reins to do it, but myself, I don't even get involved in any of the like the tribalism stuff and people going back and forth, because it's not, you can have a social media presence on Twitter if you do it right, and not not engage.
I feel like you have to pick a side to really pop off on Twitter, though. Like you can tweet and you can be a part of it, but if you really want to like get popular and get followers, you got to pick a side.
Yeah, you got to like go full heel or full baby face on one or the other. Yeah,
there's the tweeners ain't popping off on that thing.
I can't do that.
You have to be a legitimate news source for that.
Yeah, I can't do that with Sheena's.
Or you have to be really funny. Those Public Enemy guys are funny. But
no, Public Enemy's great, dude. There's some really good
because the commercial, but they're funny, so you can be funny and get over on Twitter too.
Yeah, I just don't want to. Sheena has the Chick Foley page is more obviously. She has her. She gets into CM Punk. She's not a fan of CM Punk. Or back in the day with Samoa Joe, which kayfabe, she does actually like Samoa Joe, but she had this whole gimmick where she hated Samoa Joe. But it was like, and she used to, if you read those comments where she would like shit on Samoa Joe, like he has an army of fans that you do not want to deal with at all.
I don't like John Cena the character. It's the truth, guys. there's no gimmick. So, and I get it all the time, so I completely relate. And I've had so many running gimmicks. The whole I'm in love with Carmella gimmick I ran with
That's
forever,
it. I was
and
gonna
the
say that.
whole Brie Bella thing, and being the biggest Sasha Banks fan. Like I ran with so many things that aren't as real as people think they are, but it's just like, and they're in on it. Like, well, Sasha not so much, but like Carmella's been in on it since day one. Like,
Yeah.
she knows what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I met Graves, and he's like, I feel like I have heard of you before, and I was like, crap. And then he
Yeah.
followed. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there is some people that think it's too far. They don't get that it's a joke, and they think it's real. I'm like, no, dude, it's like, it's cool. Like, we're cool. Everyone's cool. It's just it's to entertain. I called Sasha Banks Salsa Banks for like 4 or 5 years. I think that pissed her off. But like,
Damn.
there's just gimmicks, right? I run, we gotta run with stuff. The ooh yeahs, I've been doing that forever. How I came on this show, the another day, the another elbows. I used to say good night misfits and call people misfits. I've had 30,000 gimmicks on this page that ran.
Right. Wow. I remember all those too.
Yeah,
Oh, geez.
and it's also like a maturity thing too. When I started the page, I was 22 and I was a little dumb and stupid, and like my attitude era, like posted some stuff I probably shouldn't have posted, said some stuff I probably shouldn't have said.
Yeah.
When I was like 22, 23 years old, I'm now like almost 10 years later. It's almost been 10 years since I ran this page. It started in 2014. I've grown up. I've matured. I look at the kids that say stupid stuff or have funny opinions, and I'm like, man, I remember when I said those things, and one where I was comfortable enough to post these things on social media when there wasn't a plethora of wrestlers and people in the industry following me.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that, because you have the conversations with the classic and all that stuff. And how did you get into how did you get to in with talking to all these different individuals and stuff like that? Because he has some I mean, if you're listening out there and you follow his page, you see in his interviews, he's interviewed the top of the top, and everyone, literally everybody I can think of, like the top people. How did you?
I want to interview more people. I've been trying to get more interviews with WWE, but I mean, this year alone, Trish Stratus, Stone Cold, Austin,
Stone Cold. Like, how does that happen?
Jericho. I
give the secrets. What are you doing? No, I'm joking.
Okay, I mean, okay. I already spent 56 minutes just crapping on the rest, which I love and adore, and I want both companies to succeed. It comes from a good place. If anyone takes this out of context, listen to this part. The context is I love WWE and I love AEW and I want them both to succeed, but I like certain things. That being said, I never wanted to do interviews. I never thought I was going to be an interview. I never thought I was going to do a podcast. I never had no intention. I started this page because I wanted to connect with wrestling fans. I wanted to create that base on Instagram where people could just enjoy wrestling and be positive about it. I think one of the biggest things that has also been a detriment to me, because I don't get the same opportunities, because I'm not like a news source, breaking news dirt sheet. I don't get the opportunities they get because they come off as these credible publications and whatnot. And I don't.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I also get a lot of opportunities because I'm not, and because a lot of these people in the industry will be like, you know what? And it's usually the talent more so. And honestly, now people even backstage and social media teams of the companies are like, no, we like your stuff because you're authentic, you're very positive, and you're not really ever shitting on everything. Because they're and I always say, if I used to tell people when I was actually doing my TWC show on a weekly basis, and I did that from 2019 till this past January, and I mean to bring it back. It's just a lot has happened this year. But I was like, if you ever really want to hear me talk crap about anything, listen to the show, because you're not going to get it on the page.
Yeah.
It's just not. Unless it's about John Cena or just simple things like I didn't enjoy this, I did enjoy that. Because there's a point too where I didn't even really care. It's kind of like that right now too. To be honest, I don't care what happens. The outcomes don't affect me much. I remember when I'll tell you exactly a period I remember for sure, because someone asked me about it on this show, yo, how'd you feel about the Goldberg beating the Fiend? And I was like, oh, I thought it was not. Personally, I was like, if I was bad, I think it was dumb. But I'm I don't. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued to see how everybody else is reacting, because when you get to a point where you are a place to where people get to react, I look like not like I kind of probably know how Vince feels. Like he doesn't care what happens. He just likes to see how everyone's gonna react to what he
Yeah,
does.
exactly. Yep.
You know, I'm like,
Yep.
I just want to see I just like to see how people react to what happens. Like, I wonder if they're gonna go crazy. I wonder if they're gonna lose this stuff. Are we gonna trend tonight? Like, like that's what I don't even care. Like, oh, Goldberg beat the Fiend. Yeah, that sucks. Bad idea in my mind. But
Yeah.
more, let's see what they're saying on Twitter because this is crazy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's see what
And
happens.
I think, so I think it just because I was a positive platform, uh, and I've heard this from wrestlers plenty of times, especially at the beginning, because there's been a weird like there is a I wasted so much time talking about wrestling, but like there is a weird trajectory of what happened with my page. Like initially it was just pictures, then they introduced 15-second videos and I put some here and there, then minute videos, and you could do slides for 10 minutes. And I
Yep.
would always post like full matches and promos. And a lot of wrestlers I met over the years, like, no, we love watching his stuff when we're on the road. Like when we're on the
Yeah.
road, we come to your page. I've had people that produce shows for the WWE Network, like, yo, when Willie coming up with WWE list or like top 20, like we remember things from looking at your page. Like, oh yeah, you guys remember this?
Ah.
Oh, yeah. I've had social media team, certain people blatantly but indirectly tell me like, no, like you're the man. We've taken ideas from your page. And they're like on WWE's page. They're like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta
Yep.
remember when I was posting videos and stuff, WWE wasn't.
Yeah. That's right.
Pictures with like gold graphic filters on them or something. Like it was weird,
Yeah.
you know. Then there's weekly best selfies of the week, so they could post all the women's best. Like I introduced like every day you're getting women's wrestlers on the page. Like,
Yeah. That's right. Wow.
I'm taking
Jeez.
advantage of the Bella army, and I'm posting the Bellas all the time. Like it was like,
Wow.
there's a lot of things I did. So I think people just the positivity, respected their grind, their creativity, and then it became the situation of me having to continuously grow. I just felt
Yeah.
like if you keep doing the same thing, then it's gonna get boring, I
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
like, I tried selling merch. I did a few interviews early on with like the Singh brothers and some local wrestlers, and had MJF on 2 times before he popped off, and um, just interviewed Rikishi and Sean Mooney, did live streams, and then I'd always kind of start and stop. It wasn't like anything I could consistently do. It's hard to get interviews. It's hard to get people to come on your
Yes,
show.
it is.
Hard
Yeah.
want people to come on your show. So
Yep.
I think it's a matter of relationship building, and I remember, and I'm gonna give a couple of people a shout out. So what happened was I started when the pandemic happened and I was stuck at home and I couldn't go back to California back and forth. And I was like, what am I gonna do at home? I'm like, I made all these cool relationships with people over the years. Why not just like interview them? But I wasn't thinking of big names. I was getting people I was cool with, other people in the community that I was friends, like, Chris Van Vliet and Alicia Atude and Frank the Clown. And,
Yep.
they're great people, but they're not like the major names that, might a lot of people listening might actually know. They'd probably go look at them. Oh yeah, right. So like I was getting these guys on the show and it was cool, and it kind of got me in the groove and whatnot. And then the whole story that I lost my page happened for 5.5 months. The page got
Yeah.
shut down, and then I started a whole new page, got to 40K, and then I got the old page back. But a lot of people like the pandemic and losing the page, like, was that like one of the hardest times of your life? I'm like, no, I think I'm a big there's beauty in the bullshit and there's a silver lining type of guy.
Mm.
Like, it doesn't matter how bad something is, at a certain point you can look back and like find something why it benefited you. And I think the pandemic and losing my page benefited me in many ways. One, the pandemic benefited me. Something huge just happened on Raw. One, the pandemic benefited me because I started doing the interviews and I was stuck at home and I had to get creative, like what I was going to do. Cause my whole plan at that point was going to move to California and do stuff with Dash Radio. I was trying to network and do some stuff, but I didn't really have a direction of what I wanted to do. And I
Yeah.
didn't really know when people would ask me, like, what are you? Like, you're an Instagram page? Like, you're a fan page? Like, you're not a dirt sheet. You're not tech. I was a writer technically. I had the wrestlingclassic.com for a bit and I wrote articles and predictions, but I wasn't like I wouldn't say I was like writing for any major publication. Now I
Yeah.
write 37 PM, which is Gary V's website. We do wrestling articles, which is like, okay, now I can credibly say I'm a writer for a website that's owned by someone that's credible, right? Like,
Yep.
um, and then I became a host because the podcast was started in 2019, but I kept it going through the pandemic. So now I'm a host. Now I guess I'm an interviewer full time because I started interviewing people. And I was fortunate enough that because of my years of being this popular Instagram page, I had content that people wanted to see, and I was promoting people's stuff and helping them out. Like Seamus and me built a relationship because he's like, dude, every time I put out a Celtic Warrior workout, you always posted about it, and I appreciate that.
Wow.
So when he came to Vancouver, I was like, yo, do you mind if we do an interview? And I didn't, this was 2017, so way before 2020. And I got to do it with him. And I was nervous. It was my first in-person one. You can see me, watch me. I didn't know what to do with my hands the whole time. And I'm all weird. Like I had this studio, my friend's studio, we're going to sit in chairs, but he got stuck in the tarmac at the airport. So it took even longer. Like it was a whole situation, right? So, but these opportunities came because I was like, no, you're always so positive. You promote our stuff. You always have our back. You look out for the rest. You're not like sitting there trashing the business, saying, don't watch, F this, F that, F AEW, F WWE. You're like, no, like watch everything, have your opinions, but like appreciate and enjoy wrestling. Because I had a bunch of people already following me. So when I got my page back after the 5.5 months, and they deleted my other page because I don't even know. Two things happened. One, people realized I was gone and I came back. So there's this, oh my God, you're back.
Yep.
Two, trying to get my page back, I created like this relationship that I thought I didn't have, that was non-existent, that I found out I did with both companies, WWE and AEW. Like they knew who I was.
Yeah.
They knew who I was. And I just never like had the belief that I could just reach out to them and try to do something, even though I've done stuff with them in the past. Like I got a couple of kids that went through, Steven's wrestling journey. You guys can all follow him. He's had like 3 brain surgeries. He's like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid now. And his little brother's on autism. And I remember he made a video and he posted it, and the people at Sportsnet here, where they are on the WWE shows, reached out to me. I was like, do you know anybody at WWE that like could get these kids to meet Roman Reigns? I'm like, aren't you guys Sportsnet? And doesn't all the wrestling a couple of people that I knew, and like I knew one of the main social media guys for years. I just always, this is a lesson for anyone. I always assumed he didn't like me, or like he was just kind of like, oh, that guy. Because every time I met him, he'd, oh, that guy from the internet, oh, the wrestling guy.
Yeah.
He always kind of brushed me off. I thought he just actually was realistically in real life busy. And I always took it as, oh, he brushes me off. He doesn't even want to talk to me. He just thinks I'm like, you know what I mean? I got in my own head. But when I reached out to him about these kids, well, he helped me out, and he's like, hey, well, you do all the due diligence, because you have to, like, just make sure they're telling the truth. They're not like trying to get back in to meet Roman. And make it happen. And I did. And at the end of 2019, I got these 2 kids to go meet Roman Reigns in Toronto right before Christmas. WWE made a whole video for it that they put on the YouTube channel. So like I had that. So like I had that little bit of like, we did do something together. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, like I lost my page. So but he's like, no, dude, we know what your page is. We know you're positive, all this stuff. Like I'll help you this one time to get it back. I'm just like, because like everyone's gonna say that because they want to continuously help me get my page back. But he's like, well, I'll help you this one time. And then they did. And then the AEW, same thing. But that was a little bit more of a different situation because they told me, help us promote, post our videos, this and that. And then those videos got flagged. And they're like, hey, just don't post videos anymore. TNT's like taking them down. That's not us, but a little bit of a risk, right? So they were like, so they kind of felt more entitled that they had to help me anyways. And then, but then that strengthened our relationship because then they kind of got to know me a little bit more. And then I got the page back and I had to obviously adapt. I could no longer post videos. I couldn't post like old school clips that I used to post. Like it's a risk. It's a risk for me. I know there's lots of pages out there that do.
Yep.
But I always joke around. I thought like, oh, it was good to be popular and be under their radar. But there was like a reason why it wasn't good either, because I was too much under their radar that like I had too much power to will people's opinions certain ways.
Yes. Yep.
Or like take clicks from, or they, anyone could get the wrong idea and think I was monetizing off their content, which I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I remember I said that to the social media guy that helped me too. I'm like, firsthand, because I'm like, anyone that's like back there that doesn't do social media might think I'm monetizing that stuff. But I'm like, you can't make money off Instagram like that. It's not YouTube. I'm not getting
exactly
$1 for every 100 views or something. Like that's not how this works. And he's like, no, I know. He's like, okay, so like he's like, just don't do it, because if they see you post videos, then they feel like they have a reason to take you down. If you're posting pictures or whatever, that they don't have any reason to believe that you're making money off of that, right? Because I think that's what the confusion was, because it wasn't the social media team that took my page. I actually know who took one of the people that made claims on my page from WWE. He's no longer there, but I don't think he liked me. But I've talked to him plenty of times in the past. Anyways, that's a little inside cut. But When I got the page back, I had to switch things up, and I had to figure out like what to do. And honestly, to be honest with you, for a minute there, my heart wasn't in it. I was like, I kind of felt what it was like not to be the wrestling classic for a minute. I tried working with other people to grow their wrestling social medias and work with
Yep.
them as a team, because for a minute they're like, until this day, technically, kind of, I do everything myself. No one else is running the page. Like, there's no Raw post.
Yeah.
What happened the last 2
Yep.
hours of Raw because I'm on here. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's nobody else. It's me by myself. Like, I do now kind of do the stuff with False Finish. Guys, follow that page. That's
Yep.
more like
I do follow that.
news. That's like the
Great
news.
page.
That's actually mainly Danny. Like all the graphics that are news related or quotes and stuff, that's Danny, because he wanted to kind of like be a reliable news source. And
Yep.
that's the reason that we both use that page. Is it's actually our old podcast page from our podcast from 2019. So I'm like, if you want
Nice.
the following that we grew together, then we might as well do this together, and I can help you out at the same time because we can collaborate and stuff. Because some news I don't mind sharing. If it's actual news, like CM Punk got fired, like that's
Yeah.
actual confirmed viable news, then yeah, sure, like I'll collaborate on that. If it's just like someone said something I don't disagree with or I think it's gonna piss someone off, then I'm not gonna collaborate on that. But
Yeah.
but anyway, so then it took me like about I think I got my page back in November, and it was around January. I was like, man, like, do I want to do interviews still? Like, I wasn't really. They were fun and like lockdown, but I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know, like it started becoming more of a task, and I like, I don't know. I just kind of I would never intend to do, and I kind of fell out of it. And then I met these two kids, Daniel and Vikram, who are now both like Vikram's already on the independent scene wrestling now. He's like 20 years old, and Daniel is just starting to wrestle now and having his first match soon. But at the time, they were just two kids. They were upset my page got taken down. They did a lot to try to help me get it back.
Wow.
They had me on their podcast right before the page got taken down. And I remember I was talking to them because they were getting like TJ Wilson and like Jimmy Joe, these crazy guests. And I'm like how? Like who are you kids? Right? Like, and I'm like, you guys have the benefit of like I wish I was doing that when I was 21 years old too. Like I started doing it when I was like 30, right? Like
You know?
that's the benefit of being young kids. So like people like, there was that benefit of them being young kids and them being like, oh, I'll help these kids out and do their show, right? So I was like, man, and they kind of were like, no, you just gotta, and I already knew this because I've done it for so many other things. Like I've done it for like connecting with wrestlers, trying to get them, just building those relationships. I'm like we just sign their DMs and just actually ask them. And I never really actually asked anyone. I'm like, I know all these people and they all follow me, but I never really like just like,
That's
hey,
what I do.
like I never really did that. Like I had
Yeah.
this weird like not ask for favors type of thing unless it was really important kind of attitude, which was
Yeah.
weird, right? Unless
Yep.
or I really felt like I had that relationship with them. And the WWE superstars I had that relationship with is still kind of tough. I do remember asking Jinder again. It's like, oh, I gotta get permission this time. Like they get stressed when we do with bigger pages. And I'm like, well, now it's a problem because I'm a bigger page. So it's okay if
Yeah.
someone smaller reaches out to you and you do it. But if I ask you, like I'm just now I'm so under the radar that I'm now, I was never taken seriously as a publication, but now I am. Like I'm so confused. And Renee Paquette left WWE. Like she was
Yep.
she left, and I was like, oh, I've been cool with Renee forever. She used to be on Sportsnet, been watching her forever. She's followed my page for years. We've had good rapport. Met her in person. She was super cool. It'd be cool to have her on this show. I didn't have a show at that point. I just brought it back then because I was like, if I ask her name, she'll never understand that. I think I've said to her a few times, I even posted about it. And I think she's always kind of likes it, whatever. But I hope she understands. Like, if she said no, I probably wouldn't have continued doing it. Like,
Really?
she
Why is
said,
that?
I just never wanted to. Like, and I think how if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 40.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel like there's this thing where like when you're in your early and mid 20s, because I've seen it happen with a lot of creators actually. That like I grew up watching the stuff myself, where at first when you're in your early 20s and mid 20s, like you kind of
Yep.
want to be in front of the camera, you want to be that guy,
Yeah.
you want to grow, you want to be that influencer. And it even happens with popular creators, like even like Logan Paul and like big YouTubers like that.
Yep.
At some point you go from wanting to be in front of the camera and then you like turn like 27, 28, and then you're like, I want to produce the stuff and be behind it. Kind
Yeah.
of like out of the scene and that's what I was kind of I'm like, I'm interviews, like I'm gonna have to put myself out there all the time. And
Yeah.
I didn't think I still don't think I'm that great at it, but every time I
Yeah.
do it, I'm like, no, you're good, man. Like I'm gonna talk a lot. And like you're good at it. Like, and
It
I remember
helps.
I remember when I was younger, my friends like, you should be like a broadcast journalist and stuff. And I actually thought about it. But like, if you go on my page, on my personal page, Justin Dillon, there's a whole post after. It's been 1 year since I interviewed Daniel Bryan on stage last year here in Vancouver in front of 300 people. It's a year to date, September 11th last year. I did that, and it blows my mind because I'm like, there was a part of me that weirdly, when I was a kid, grew up watching like Jimmy Fallon and Jay Leno and David Letterman, and like I love those shows. And man, I'd love to just do something like this one day,
Yeah.
And then, but never really like want like pursued it. But I'm telling you, bro, it's so weird. Like I took a journalism class. I'm like, oh, I'd love to be a writer. I'm really good at writing. Never pursued it to become a writer, but now I write articles for wrestling. There was a point in my life where I was like, man, I'd actually love being like a Jay Leno, Jimmy Fallon, like the talk show and like just
Yeah.
talk, we'll have fun, maybe play games with them and stuff. I haven't done exactly what I wanted to do, but I do interviews and I talk to really cool people and I get to interview them. But that was never my plan. Like,
Yeah.
almost like I manifested stuff and like just kind of thought that I wanted to do when I was young. And I was in school, and the first year of college, I took general studies because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I took creative writing and journalism. And I was like, oh, maybe I can do something with wrestling with this stuff. Had no idea how to do it. Then I went into marketing. I was like, oh, maybe I can do something with wrestling with the stuff. Didn't know how I was going to do it. And then somehow, when I wanted to make a wrestling page, and my ex-girlfriend didn't want me to have Instagram because she thought I talked to too many girls, so I deactivated my personal Instagram account. And I made a secret wrestling page.
Oh boy.
Where I blocked out my friends and family. I somehow found a way to do something with wrestling. I found out a way to write. I found out a way to do interviews and be somewhat of a broadcaster, all by chance. And just
Yeah.
me thinking of it as an idea once upon a time. And I think that's insane. And I think the biggest thing people need to be able to actually do these things is one, you need to believe in yourself a lot. You
Yep.
need to have a hell of a lot of patience.
Yeah.
You be okay with rejection.
Yep.
And you also gotta realize you gotta roll with the punches because one minute you'll be loaded and have lots of money and the cash is rolling in. Next minute you're goddamn broke, up and down and up and down.
Yep.
Options come and get taken away from you. And you got to be ready for that. And then you will be
Yeah.
able to do what you want to do. And I know people's life circumstances, family circumstances, financial circumstances, they're just your circumstances in general may stop you from these things, and that I completely understand. But man, if you can, just try. I mean, from 2014 to 2018, I was working at the bank the entire time while doing the Wrestling Classic and growing this. From 2019 to 2020, I was low-key, worked I almost got into real estate. I was working on that for half the year. Then my buddy was going to buy a business and I took over all that. And even till this day, I have clients still that I help them with their social media on the side so I can still pursue this. So I'm making money here. Plus, I'm also making money by being a social media manager and coordinator for a couple of different companies. That's the side people don't see. You still
Yeah.
gotta grind, but just don't quit if you can. Like, if you cannot not quit, like, if you have the opportunity to continue to keep going, just keep going. Because every time I was about to stop doing something crazy would happen. I'm like, oh, F this Wrestling Classic stuff. The Rock follows me. Oh, F this Wrestling Classic stuff. The Weeknd's following me. F this Wrestling Classic stuff. Oh, do you want to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin? F this Wrestling Classic stuff. Do you want to do this? Something always happens that brings me back in.
Yeah.
And the relationships I built and the things I've got to do and the friendships I've been able to make with people I never would ever have met if I never made this page from all around the world it's priceless. I can't put a price on the experiences in the life I've got to lead in the last 9 years because of this.
Yeah.
The fact that some kid followed me from the very beginning, liked my stuff, used to comment on my stuff all the time. One day commented on my page that one day you're going to be posting me on your page. I'm going to be a WWE superstar. I drove home and told my dad I wanted to be a wrestler. I left my scholarship for football scholarship, went home, told my dad I wanted to be a wrestler, and now I'm doing it. And the fact that this man ended up becoming MJF and he's giving me a shout out on TV and I still talk to his dad
That's
all
right.
the time because of this page is wild.
That's insane.
The
Yeah.
fact that I have personal relationships with the entire Hart family, including Brett, is wild because that was my childhood hero. I went to go meet Bret Hart when I was 6 years old with my brother and my sister at like a Dunkin' Donuts or some place. I don't remember. I do remember crying because I was a baby, nervous as hell. My mom was with me, and not even getting my 8x10 sign. But my brother and my sister got their sign. I never got my 8x10 sign. And then fast forward, I'm 26 years old, and Bret Hart pulls me, coming back from the restroom, pulls me out of the WrestleCon line, says, "Why are you standing in line?" Justin takes me to the front and like knows who I am. Thank you for taking my kids out when they came to Vancouver. Thanks for being so nice to everybody in my family. Thanks for being such a big fan. Oh, can you sign this jacket? Oh, he's only allowed to sign one thing. The lady's trying to pull the jacket. No, I want to keep writing on it. Best match ever. I've been to this guy's house. Like, you know what I mean? And all because I liked wrestling. The fact that like I've had conversations with The Rock, The Weeknd. The fact that I haven't paid for a weekend concert the last 3 times he's come to Vancouver.
That's insane. That's see, and then you like at the beginning of this when I was like, it's kind of crazy talking to you because obviously you don't see yourself as like this like like marquee or like this like pillar of the wrestling community, not even just like on Instagram, just in general. Like, and for me talking to you and you saying that you have all these connections with people, that's like nerve-wracking in itself. Like, I'm like, why are you giving me the time of night?
I remember I was going to WrestleMania in Dallas, and WrestleMania in Dallas was the biggest trip for me. WrestleMania in Dallas was the biggest trip for me in 2016 because I just started putting my face out there. I just started like owning like I was the wrestling classic. My girlfriend found out about it. It was out to the world. And then we're no longer together, but my ex-girlfriend found out about it. It was out to the world. But I remember going to WrestleMania in Dallas, seeing people wearing wrestling classic shirts.
Yeah.
And people stopped me and asked me if they could take a picture with me. Back then I said no, because I'm like, I don't take pictures of people. But
yeah,
going to WrestleMania 18, and I remember at the Royal Rumble in Arizona, a kid came crying to me. He's like, "Yo, like, I don't have many friends that like wrestling. I always feel left out, but I feel like I'm part of something with your page." And he's like in tears with me. And I'm like, it's wild. And I've had some crazy interactions over the world that does make it surreal to me. I think it's weird when you get to a point where you go somewhere and someone's like, "Yo, can I take a picture with you?" I'm like, why?
Like, because they have that connection.
It ain't gonna be worth anything, trust me. But like to
them, it is though. That's the difference.
Because like even those 2 kids, Daniel and Vikram, like I'll talk to Daniel. He's like, "Oh, dude, I remember being in like grade 7, looking at your page." I'm like, "Grade 7?" I'm like, and I like 22 years old. We talk all the time. Like you were a little kid watching. Like it's crazy to think. Like and, so yeah, like the interview stuff when Renee said yeah, I said yeah, and then the ball was to the wall. And then I just realized to start taking more risks. I'm like, why not just ask people? I reached out to Gary V's team. They gave me Gary V, and just it's making those network connections. I met someone that knew Danielson, who ended up being Danielson's manager, and he gave me the Danielson interview. Then I just like went in there and I started asking the wrestlers directly if they want to come on the show, and they would say yes. In AEW, they can just say yes and do it, or say yes and go ask. And I don't spill the beans, but that's people ask me like, how did you start that? I'm like, I went to the wrestlers, and the wrestlers asked on my behalf, to the point where I made the relationship. So now they just give them to me they do their best to give them to me when they can. Or if I do ask someone, like I make sure to go through the proper channels, not to piss anybody off. But I took that risk of just getting them myself first. WWE's a lot tougher. I'm still working on that beast. But it's weird because when they came to Vancouver, they reached out to me. It'd be nice if they reached out to me all the time. But they're cool. That's the brick wall I'm trying to crack through right now. But I still don't think I'm a great interviewer. I don't know if I enjoy doing them, but I'm my own biggest critic. I think they all suck. I hate watching myself back. I hate editing them.
The same way.
I judge myself. Wait, did I say I'm too much? Did I say 100% too much? Did I say fair too much? Like, did I talk too much? Was I cutting the wrestler off? I never intend to do that. Sometimes I get excited. In some cases, I get nervous. I have this theory, and you can tell me if you relate, right? I have this theory where if it's anyone modern, like if it's Kevin Owens or Orange Cassidy or Daxton Cash or Malachi, like I don't really get nervous because I feel like we're on the same age and I probably hang out with these guys here. Like it's like, I can't fanboy or fangirl over anyone like that. But like if it's any of the OG people that I watched as a kid, like it was Stone Cold or Brett, those nerves do exist. I remember like when I was about to interview Trish earlier this year, and everyone came ask me like, "Oh, you're gonna interview Trish? Oh, you nervous?" I'm like, "Man, this is like work to me now. Like I don't get nervous. Like I'm gonna do it, bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. I'll be done. I'll be good. Whatever." I'm sitting at the place. Trish walks to the door. all the
Oh
nerves,
my.
all because I was in person too, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
she's so pretty and she's real. You know what I mean?
oh
Because
my god.
she was like from my childhood, like she was there in very pivotal years of my life. So,
Oh
um, uh,
my god.
then I feel like the nerves kick in when it's people I grew up watching.
Yeah,
Um, Modern people, uh, we're the same. We're people. We're humans. We go out and have dinner or something. You know, like
man. Yeah, the one that like, the Stone Cold, like seeing you with Stone Cold, that was I mean, that was pretty surreal in a sense.
that's
Was it
one of those
surreal
things.
to you?
100%. That's one of those. I didn't plan that. I didn't ask for that. I didn't even think that was possible. That was one of those situations where I was on, like, and this year was crazy because I haven't been to a WrestleMania or a big wrestling weekend. Like, I've been to a couple of Revolutions or, a
Mhm.
SmackDown, a live show here and there. I haven't been to a big wrestling weekend since 2019 at this point. Right? So now
Wow.
it's 2023 and it's WrestleMania because 2020 couldn't go anywhere. 2021 I could, but it was a little bit hectic.
Yeah.
2022, my bad. I missed WrestleMania weekend. I should have went. This year, I'm like, it's in LA. It's like my second home. I have family down there. My family owns a house down there now. Like I shouldn't have any issues ever going to California.
Yeah.
So, like literally, I'm like my first cousins and everyone are down there. So like it's California is like a second home to me. So I was like, I can't miss WrestleMania in California. So I went down there, and it was such a big reminder of like, oh, I'm somebody. Because when I'm in Vancouver, like I'm just me, and I love that. And I love that the people here know that I'm just the same old Justin that we went to high school with. Just all my friends are married, having babies. Like that's what I do
Yeah.
here. Like I go hang out with them and their wives and their babies and like stuff like that. So it's like it's not, then half of them don't even watch wrestling, but they're super happy for me and stuff. But they think it's super cool, but like they could really give a shit.
Yeah.
Which is nice. So it's humbling. Like I feel like does that
Yeah.
bother you? It's nice. Like I like that there's like, there's wrestling classic, then there's pre-wrestling classic Justin. I got my OG friends, and like it doesn't matter whether I fail or succeed, they're still gonna be my friends, like
Yeah.
um, and so like that. So I forget sometimes. And WWE and AEW, I mean AEW did a whole tour in Canada and they stopped in Calgary. They didn't even come to Vancouver. So like this is not like a hot spot where we get a lot of people coming here all the time. And
Yeah.
go to see them often, and the closest that they come usually, but it's like once a year is Seattle, so like we'll go there. But so I forget sometimes. I forget like the connection I have and how people know me. So this WrestleMania weekend was a big reminder of that, and like being invited to the WWE hotel and like seeing Natalia and Sheamus guys after so long, and
Mm.
Dakota Kai getting so excited to like finally meet me in person. I'm like, oh, like and I went to this 2K event, and I walked in there like all like, like I haven't seen anybody in like 3 years. Like think about that. Like I made all these connections with like Peter Rosenberg and Ryan Staden. I know all these guys, Kaz and Kathy Kelly. Like I know all these people. Have not seen them in 3 years. Out of sight, out of mind. I kept
Jeez.
saying that before I went. I'm like, I need to go because out of sight, out of mind. Like everyone knows who I am, but if they don't see me often, they'll forget about me when opportunities come up.
Yep.
So just being there was like a really big reminder. So I remember the biggest thing that happened that weekend for me personally was, okay, I was gonna get this Bret Hart interview. Like that was going to happen this weekend. Like it was almost like we're supposed to do it virtually. And then I remember his son also, aren't you gonna be in LA for WrestleMania anyways? I'm like, yeah, he's like, why don't you and my dad just do it in person? And I'm like, oh, even better. We're just doing it in
Wow.
person. So like I knew that was gonna happen, right? What I didn't know was I went to California first for Revolution in the Bay Area. And I thought something was gonna happen there. I was trying to make some connects, yada yada yada. Nothing really happened. I was really hungover the day of Revolution. Like other people come, I didn't even ask a question. I probably should have, guys. Like, but you live and you learn, right? Like, not ever gonna do that again. So like, just I felt like I messed up an opportunity. I was gonna go to LA from San Jose like on a certain date, but I got this random email being like, "Hey, like, do you want to attend this?" One, it was some Broken Skull IPA party, but
Yep.
if you come attend this, you also get to attend this private 2K party because we're inviting you as like an influencer, and I don't
Yep.
even know. So I worked with Broken Skull IPA in 2019 when I first started my podcast. I reached out to them. I'm like, hey, you guys don't have these beers in Canada. I would love to try them.
Yeah.
If you send me some, I will promote them. I'll drink them on the show. I'll do the beer smash. I'll make you guys a video. Did all that stuff. And it was cool. And I don't know, they were cool. They sent me a bunch of beer. I didn't even ask them to pay me. So like cool. And then when this lady hit me up, I didn't think it was real. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not. I have like the worst ego because like I barely have one. Like everyone has one, but I'm like not very like I don't. I undervalue myself sometimes. Like I don't see
Mm.
what other people see me as. So I'm like,
Yeah.
but in this moment, I was like, you know what? I want this much money. I want this much money. I need some of my flight covered because I have to change my flight now because I'm coming down earlier if I come to this. And 3, if possible, I want to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know where this came from. I don't know where this courage and these balls came
Wow.
from.
Yeah.
I would like to interview Stone Cold. Like, I don't know where it came from. I'm like, if he's gonna be there and I'm here, let me interview Stone Cold, right? Because this was like this WrestleMania was like my comeback WrestleMania. Like I was gonna make something happen this year.
You're just feeling yourself. That's
I
all.
was feeling myself, and I didn't. It was so funny because my one friend would always ask me, like, okay, who would be your biggest interview? Like, what would be like your cutoff? I'm like, I really want to interview Brett. They're like, what would be crazier than Brett? Like, who do you think you could interview that would be like, you don't think you'd get it? I'm like, Stone Cold. Because Stone Cold's also on my top 5, right? Savage,
Yeah.
take Brett, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, whatever, right? So I was like, Stone Cold. Because I don't think I could ever get Undertaker and Shawn. If I can build a relationship with WWE, I think I'd get Shawn. But
Oh
I was like,
man.
Austin. I'm like, I'd get Stone Cold. And it's one of those things. I said it a couple of times, and then I think it just manifested itself to happen because I get this random email from this company I don't know inviting me to some event. I made a couple of demands. They said okay. I'm like, oh wow.
Wow.
Okay there.
Man.
And then but everything was okay, like the payment, and we'll pay a little bit for your flight and whatnot. The Stone Cold thing was like, we'll try to make it happen, but to be fair, we won't know till the day of.
Yeah.
It's it depends on Stone Cold's schedule and his mood and et cetera, if he wants
Yeah.
to, right? So I was like, all right. So I go down there earlier than I was supposed to, and go there in the morning, and it's like a fan thing, and they're filming something for that TV show that he ended up doing. Stone Cold Takes Over USA or whatever.
Yeah.
Takes on America, I think. And they had a party for Broken Skull, and I got to do the interview with Stone Cold, and that was like super cool, and it was nerve-wracking, and it was loud, and I put my mic on the wrong, like I put on the wrong thing to change it because I was nervous. I had a friend recording it on my iPhone. Like, you guys, like it's a very like I don't have a team, I don't have a whole production team putting up lights and everything for me. Like it's a very amateur hour, but trying my best to make things happen, which is what I recommend everyone do. I think the best advice I've ever gotten was from my I don't know if you ever watched the movie Holes.
Yes.
We're also Cleo Thomas is a big wrestling fan, and me and him became pretty good friends over the years. Every time I went to California, we'd make sure we'd at least hang out. And I almost thought that wasn't going to happen this time, but then I saw him at the WWE hotel too. And I was like, oh my god, it happened. I remember one time I was on a call with him when I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do, like what direction I should take, and like I want to start a show, but I want a studio, and I want this, and I want it to look like that. And he was like, listen, dude, he's like, just start. And once you start, you'll progressively, the show will get better, the format will get better, you'll have a better place, you'll have a better background. Just like start doing it, right? Just start putting it out. Like he's like, go watch Joe Rogan's first podcast where him and his buddy are just sitting on the couch with like a really camera. He's like, you just got to start. I take that advice, just do it. It's like the advice. And 2 things, that advice and the advice I got from the Singh brothers back in 2016 when I was sitting at the house recording one of my first podcasts was like, we just show up everywhere. Just show up. Just be in the same area. And I'm like, yo, like, and both those things have been 2 really beneficial pieces of advice that I've taken with me everywhere. Just start it, just try to do it. Even if you think you're not ready, just try to do it. I remember when Brett's kids reached out to me in 2015 and said, do you want to do a podcast with my dad? And I said, let me think about it. And then because I wasn't ready, I didn't even know how to do a podcast. And then they ended up doing it with Nick Hossman. I should have just said, yeah, and like figured it out. But you live and you learn, right? And then it took me like how many years to finally get an interview with Brett. But yeah, so then I go there and I remember I saw Austin. He got hyped about my jersey, shook hands. Obviously, we're at the brewery. So he went straight from ha 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 happy Austin to like serious Austin, right into my eyes, looking right into my beady eyes.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, goddamn, son. He's
like,
we're
gonna do this. He's like, we're gonna do this, but stay sober. I was like looking dead at my eyes, like, stay sober. I'm like, giving me this opportunity because I don't think he's ever heard of me, right? Like, he knew he was giving me this opportunity. He's like, doesn't know who this kid is. I'm gonna give this kid an interview. Don't know. That's why it meant a lot. And I might when he's like, hey, you got a future in this business, kid. You're pretty good at this. Wow. It meant a lot. I've never talked to Austin. I've never met Austin. We went into this of him he's doing this event in a good mood. all right, this kid wants to interview me. Let's see what he's got.
That's
Dude,
awesome.
when we went upstairs to do the interview and like he sat down like ready to go, like I had no time to like fix my mic and like he was ready and we had 10 minutes.
Damn.
And I think the fact that I was able to get him a little emotional talking about Brett this night, he's like, oh, this guy got me. He ended up talking about Brett for the whole next 2 events because we went downstairs with the fans again, did the whole thing. Then in the evening was a 2K event, which I didn't even know what this 2K event was. I came back to it and everybody just happened to be there, like all Rosenberg and Kathy Kelly guys and Caleb Braxton and Xavier Woods in the mid. Like everyone was just there. And I'm like, oh, why am I here?
Yeah.
Like,
do I even belong here? What the hell?
But then it's like I said, it was a reminder that I do belong in these places, and I have created something. And I had a conversation with someone at the hotel one of the WrestleMania nights because I kept getting invited to the WWE hotel to like just hang out after the shows. And once again, I was having that imposter syndrome. Like, what am I doing here? And I talked to this one guy I know who I've known for a very long time, but he's really good friends with like Jinder and Rey Mysterio guys and Sheamus stuff. He's like, and he was really happy to see me because like we've always known each other, and I think this was the first time we met. And he's like, yo, I just want you to like stop acting like you don't belong here. He's like, you belong here. He's like, you know what the crazy thing is? All these people actually know who you are. No one's looking at you being like, what is he doing? They know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, just I want you to remember that. He's like, you belong here. Just like, you know, because I think I said to him, like, oh, I feel so weird being here. He's like, why do you feel weird being here? He's like, dude, like,
for a reason, dude.
He's like, you know, these people like you've helped out when like they were going through stuff and you're putting over their products or their podcasts or their YouTube channels. You know, they leave the company, you're still posting them. I'm like, oh, I guess I never looked at it that way. Like I said, I always look at myself and I don't like the way you introduced me. I'm like, I don't get the hype.
You should. I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where, you know, I in the beginning, I followed Sheena, Chick Foley, and then she posted a picture wearing your shirt, the Wrestling Classic, and she tagged you in it. That's how I was introduced to you, through her. And then I started following you, and that's why I say you two are kind of, for me, are the wrestling, the Instagram wrestling pillars, because you're the two sources I would go to for my wrestling content. Like I didn't see anything else in the 2014
and
as far as wrestling was concerned on Instagram. Like
we're doing the Dave Meltzer thing where like longevity makes you reputable.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It's
the longer you stick around, the more reputable you become somehow.
Exactly. Even if you're shoveling crap here and there, if you
don't know what anyone's doing in their personal lives, but hey man, they've been doing this for so long, they must know something. But it goes back to like, I just think if everyone just keeps grinding and if you really enjoy it and you just have patience and know that like not everything is sunshine and rainbows and you're gonna get rejected. Like how many times have I jokingly said like I'm still trying to get WWE interviews? Like there's some hurdles I'm still trying to climb over.
Yeah, I mean,
there's always gonna be hurdles, right? You gotta like it enough to like enjoy it and like want to do it. And like not get into like all the politics and fighting with each other and the jealousy stuff. I know there's some people that always try to come after me, I was friends with them, then they try to come after me. I don't know if it's jealousy or like what it is, but they just like fully turn on me out of nowhere. I'm like, I don't even know what to do.
It's funny because when you when you talk about like, just going to do it, just like, don't ask the questions, because if you get into your own head, you're not gonna go forward and do anything. So
if
like,
I was scared to go interview Stone Cold, I wouldn't have done it.
Because you're in
enough, and I was like, I can knock out 10 minutes. If it was
trust
an hour,
me,
I probably would have been way more scared. Like, I can knock out 10 minutes.
No, trust me. This interview, like here, like right now, like this dude has spoken to like Bailey, Trish Stratus, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart. I'm like, what am I? When I first reached out to you, I was like, yeah, he's not going to respond. Like he's just gonna be like, who the hell is this dude? But then, and then when you responded, like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, oh no, what the hell did I get myself into?
I actually don't respond to a lot of these, and it's not out of like I like dislike. It's just like I said, as I have done it, but I'm gonna get off. I'm like, why did I talk so much? Why did I say this? Why did I say that? Nobody cares about my story. I'm gonna feel that way no matter what, right? But it's just like, I don't know. You reached out, you're really professional, and you drop some mutual friends, and I was like, okay. So
yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Like my idea behind this, like this whole like doing the show was to reach out to people that are like that I follow obviously on social media and stuff like that, and I want to get to know them more. Like obviously, if you know the term open mic, it's when your first time you're on stage and you're doing that thing. So like for the most part, it's the first time I'm meeting
Yeah.
these people, right? But there have been repeat people like the the woman I had on last week, Queen G. She's the first time I spoke to her, what was it earlier this year? She
Yeah.
was she's like one of the like forefront people in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle community. Like she's like a big collector and stuff like that. I interviewed her like this past week. Now she has a deal with like Nickelodeon and Paramount, and she's doing all these like crazy things and stuff like that. So like I kind of took credit for, her popularity. No, I'm joking. I didn't do that,
Yeah.
but like, no, she like just like seeing that stuff, like, creating that relationship with her. Now I know I can reach out to her, and if she's, I can have her on the show again, or if she's at some like convention or she's somewhere, I can reach out and actually go like meet her and stuff like that. So like, I like doing this because it creates, relationships first and foremost, because relationships are worth more than money. That's always what I say. Like the relationships you garner will take you for.
You'll make money if you have the right relationships.
Exactly. Yeah. So like if like in the amount of people I met doing this, like, even before that, meeting Sheena, becoming a, regular on her show. And then, from there, ending up on the Turnbuckle Tavern with those guys, and now ended up on their show, and like just meeting all these people and stuff like that. And, getting all these different relationships and stuff like that. I think it's worth it just doing that. Like I'm not getting paid for this. I just love the fact that I can reach out to everybody and talk to them.
I want to give a shout out to Emilio Sparks. That's something he told me years ago, really early on. He's like, the thing that you did that you don't realize that you did is you created a sense of community. In terms of like when people come to your page, they kind of all feel like they know each other. They feel like they know you. We've all been introduced to other people through your page.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't, and it's like, like there was already a sense of community, like I said, on Twitter, I feel like, and I think I was really big on helping. I think there's a lot of other people involved, a lot of people that don't have pages no more, a lot of people I would shout out, but a long list that helped build that community on Instagram. I think I was one of those people that opened up that community, and I think I started my show in the pandemic for the same reason. I want to talk to people I knew. I wanted to just like, other people that had followings or were doing stuff and, were trying to grow. And then it turned to a thing where I actually started reaching out to prominent wrestlers and people that but I started the same way you started this, was just kind of just to have conversations. So I needed casual conversations because I didn't want to be like, I'm a big fan of Chris Van Vliet, but I think his interviews are very professional and proper. And he's like, he is a broadcaster.
Nothing wrong with that, though.
He does this for a living. And I love Renee Paquette. And the thing I love about Renee Paquette's interviews is that she is very laid back. But the difference between Renee Paquette and me is that 99% of the time you could tell Renee Paquette already has like a genuine real life friendship with the people she's interviewing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like they have like this weird inside joke connection where I was like, I want to bring something where it's like, I'm one of you. I'm not a professional broadcaster. I don't have, for the most part, some of them I do, but for the most part, I don't have real life friendships with these people. I don't know them to that extent. But here I am interviewing them, and we've seen so much of it now. Like shout out to so many people. Like shout out to Muscle Man Malcolm, and I'm missing people. There's so many people that are doing interviews now. The Angle podcast, and they're killing it, and they're getting these big names. And I think a lot of people started in the pandemic, and they rolled with the punches. And some of them are lucky enough to live where there's a lot of conventions and things, so they can go out to these conventions and get. There's zero conventions in Seattle or Vancouver or Calgary, but they get to, everyone's doing it, and it's cool to see. And I think there's a lot of, in all industries, in all professions, in all whatever, a lot of jealousy when you see people succeed and grow. I love it, man. I think it's cool, man. I've seen some people do some really cool things. I knew when they first started, they were just kids. I mean, MJF. This was like 19, 20 years old or something. Like he's 27 now. So like 21, 20 years old. I've known him since before he took a bump. You know what I mean?
I remember you posting
Mariah May in Stardom right now. Killing it. She's killing it. I knew her since she was literally like 18, 19 years old. And the first conversation we had, she's like, I want to be a professional wrestler. And I was like, well, you should probably take advantage of the wrestling community because you're pretty and you're actually a wrestling fan. So like, just makes money
Yeah.
sense to me. And she built her following, was one of the first people to rock the Wrestling Classic t-shirts. So it was called the OG TWC girl. And then she started training in like 2018, 19. And she's in stardom. She's winning title belts. She's building her own name. That's in a company that's not WWE, that's not AEW. Like,
Yep.
people know who she is. And there's just so many of them. Like I said, Daniel and Vikram are just starting their careers. This Emily J. Girl that I've known forever is now wrestling. And I feel like I've known young Littlefoot, Alexis, she's wrestling now. There's just so many of these people that I've known for so long, or I've seen them before the blow up. Like the Burroughs twins, I knew them before Da Vinci was ever a thing. Like,
Wow.
I went to the Bollywood Boys house, the Singing Brothers house, to record a podcast with them before they even signed a WWE contract.
Jeez.
I was supporting Jinder and still putting Jinder Mahal over before he got signed back and returned after the 2016 draft. It was just being genuinely and supporting people no matter where they are in their career, and like seeing where people go and being happy for them. I think there's a lack that people, it's a competition. And yeah, there's always going to be a little bit of competition.
Oh yeah, of course.
There's a little bit of, I don't want to do this now because this person just did it. Maybe I'll wait. But it's like, it's also just like, be happy for people, support each other, and watch your community grow, man. I just think it's cool.
Yeah,
and also,
definitely.
you're very confident in yourself, and you're very confident in your skills, and you're very confident in what you can do. You don't really worry about what everybody else is doing, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
people need to learn. When you actually have some level of confidence in yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, because you, one, have your own audience and people that rock with you, and two, you have your own style. And honestly, Chris Van Vliet's someone that told me that, because one time I was like, oh man, like I was going to interview someone, but then he just interviewed. I'm like, oh, like, I don't know, man, we're going to ask the same stuff. And he's like, why do you care? Like, we have, like, yeah, there's some crossover for sure, but we have different audiences. And I'm like,
yeah. And you're not going to ask this. Yeah, you're not necessarily going to ask the same things. Like, I mean, especially like Yuki said, he's more professional and more straightforward and stuff like that, and you're more,
and they're looking at him. Okay, so what are the differences? I'm like, that's his stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's not my stuff. We are different, so it doesn't matter if we do the same interview. Like, yeah, because like most wrestlers want to do all the interviews on like one media row run, and like you're like, oh, but
yeah,
all things like I said, right? I'm saying all this stuff now, right? I'm saying all this stuff. I'm giving all this advice. I'm saying don't be jealous. Prop people up. It's not a competition. Know that you need this confidence. The start. I'm saying all this after doing all these things.
Yeah.
Feeling all the things everyone else is feeling. Or I'm just like, I've overcome these things, right? But if you're like, oh, shut up, this guy's just talking, I felt probably everything you felt. All the stuff I'm saying don't do, I'm saying I've done it, and it wasn't beneficial to me, and just don't. If you can avoid it, and I have younger cousins, I know I try to give them advice all the time. I'm like, everyone needs to make their own mistakes and go through their own things, and I get that. But if you can take a nugget of something from me, take it, like, because I'm telling you from experience of being where you've been and above it and under it and wherever, like,
yeah, definitely.
None of it was easy, and it's easier to look back at things and like be like, yeah, don't do this, don't do that. But I was jealous at times, I'm sure, and I was annoyed at times. And I was, and I missed opportunities, and I like, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm just saying, like, if you, and I was impatient, but I learned to do all these things because I realized it does benefit me. And I just think, I think the biggest thing is just, believe in yourself and be patient, man. Just start, do the thing.
Yeah.
Keep doing
the thing is, people always see the result and not the process.
I hate that.
Result.
I hate that. I'm like, everyone talks about The Rock being the biggest star in the world, the highest paid actor, big movie star. I'm like, where was he from 2004 to 2016? He was making bad movies nobody was barely watching, and not a name in Hollywood. Then he popped off, but people discredit those years because those don't matter. The like dark years that nobody knows about. I'm like, so you guys all know about his highs when he was The Rock in WWE, and then when he became this big, highest paid Hollywood star by like 2016. And but you guys don't realize that it took him like 6-7 years to get there, and he's The Rock.
Yeah,
nothing happens overnight. Things take time.
Yeah,
people look at cut. Yeah, people look at like, oh, like there's so many, like, some people they work hard and they're fortunate and things will happen to them younger in their careers, and some people it takes a little bit longer. Some people it takes until their 30s, their 40s, till they get that big moment, 50s, whatever. Sometimes it happens to people when they're 20 and 25. You can't say, but the one thing you gotta do is just not give up and just keep trying.
Yeah,
keep trying, man. I mean, every time I'm like, at least I try. You know,
Yeah, that's all you can really do is just, you got to put forth the effort and actually go to do it. Because if you don't, then you're just gonna sit there and be like, oh, what if I should have did that, and then
so what if
you
I hate that? I don't want that.
what if?
I don't want to stop doing something because, like I said, there was many times I'm like, I think this like I'm gonna go in the real estate direction. No more wrestling classic. Or I'm gonna, I'm not making any money from this. I'm gonna move on. This is, it's being told it's a hobby and then getting in my own head. Like, is it really just a hobby? Like, am I just wasting time? Like, it's happened so many times.
Yeah.
But then I have to be like, I don't really want to do anything else. If I stop this, am I gonna be like, I was this close to doing something else in this industry, but then I decided to stop right when I was this close to go do something I'm not really gonna enjoy and my heart's not in it. You know what I mean? Because I mean, at least
Yeah.
I'm doing something with this, my heart's in it. I'm with it. I want to do it. Trial and error, fail, ups, downs. Like I want to do something here. So like, but the only thing I can keep doing is trying because I don't ever want to look back and be like, this we could go like another hour, but I just don't like the whole idea of like, sometimes people in life
Mm.
will say like, oh, this person peaked there, or this was their glory days. Oh, when I was in my teenagers, I had all this and that. And when I was in my 20s, I'm still there, man. I'm still rolling.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Wow.
like I love my life as a teenager, but what I'm doing now is better than. I love my life in my early 20s. What I'm doing now is better than too. Like it just keeps getting better. Like in my mind, for me personally, and that's what matters. I don't really care. I care about what the people I care about think about me sometimes, but I don't really care what other people think about me. I'm doing it
Yeah.
for me. You gotta do things for yourself. Happiness, mental health, that's all real. Uh,
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
life's not all butterflies and rainbows. You're gonna be depressed and sad and mad and all those things at times, but for the most part, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the ride because I'm
Yeah.
doing what I want to do and the way I want to do it and
Yeah.
rolling with the punches.
Why would you cap your like whatever your highs are? Like look at to bring it back to wrestling, look at Ric Flair. He's still right. I mean, he's even like bigger than he was as a wrestler. Like he's, you know,
That
mainstream,
man became a
mainstream.
mainstream pop culture icon
Yeah. How
in
crazy is that?
his 60s and 70s. Like,
Yeah. How that's insane. Like that's like there's no cap on like greatness, if you want to call it that. Like there's no cap on like what you're, as long as you're alive, you should be doing what you're doing. Like
and you never
that's
know.
how it should be.
You never know who you're influencing. You never know whose life you're making an impact on. You never know what you might say to someone that you think you're just, spitting out rubbish and
Yeah.
rambling, but it actually affects someone. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah,
like,
no.
you never know because it's happened to me. I've been on the other side where someone said something to me and it just stuck to me, and they would just probably think of something to say because they had to, or like
Yeah.
I'm
I
just talking away on this podcast saying a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe something,
no,
like, you
it's gonna
never.
connect to somebody because like there's always those times where I'm like you could be just out in the street, or in a store like waiting in line, and a random person, that's happened to me a lot, will say something to me. Like I don't know the person. I have no clue what, where they came from, what they're going through. They just someone in line, and they'll like, you'll be waiting in line. They'll just turn and say like some type of like,
Yeah.
profound like thing, and then they'll pay for the stuff and walk off. I'm like, and I always take it in. I'm like, was that a message from somewhere? Is that, should I take that message and do something with it? Like that's how I always take it anyway. So it doesn't matter if you think you're rambling, or something's gonna stick to somebody. Someone's gonna take whatever you say, and it's
No,
gonna resonate.
you just gotta like in just life generally, just try to be a good person. It's hard to be that every day. I'm not a morning person. I'm grumpy as hell until I get a coffee, need some food. I'm telling you, like, just but for the most part, like, you gotta just try your best to be a good person, and like it's just and like to your point, like I could be having a really shitty day, and someone can like smile and make a joke somewhere to me, like whether it's like my Starbucks coffee barista or something,
Yeah,
flip my entire mood over. You know what I mean? I'm like, you
something
idiot.
random.
And
Yeah,
I'm like, no, that was actually pretty funny. Or they'll compliment me about something, or they'll bring something up, and it's like you never like. There's so much power that we hold with our words and our actions to even strangers that we don't know.
yep,
And I think that's why. I mean, you just gotta. I had this lady that used to come to the bank all the time. Right? She used to come to the bank all the time. and she got really sick. She had terminal cancer, and she came straight from the hospital, and I was her teller because I was still a teller then before I got my own office and stuff. And I just happened to get her. I just happened to be the teller to get her. So she comes up to my counter's place, and she just happened to come back from the hospital. She tells me that she got terminal cancer. Like, who am I?
Jeez.
I'm like, oh, and we're just talking, and she's like, I don't know, I might go to Mexico to do this treatment. They won't do it here; it costs too much. And I was like, I don't know, like, I was like, no, I'm wishing you the best, and I was like, maybe you should just do it. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like, what do you mean by like terminal? Like, you're gonna die? She's like, yeah, like, the old lady.
God.
And then she comes back like a year later, and she's here, and she's like, no, thank you for being supportive. Like, your mom family was supportive, but and I'm good. And I'm like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, that's nuts. Like, I don't know you, you don't know me. And then there's like people that like, if you work jobs, for anyone that's worked, like, I've worked at Home Depot, I've worked at Phone Thing, I've worked at multiple different banks, I've done this stuff with wrestling now, and there's people that have come into my life and gone out of my life. They were there for like, if I always jokingly say, like, I know that's like a negative thing now to be like, oh, main character syndrome, but like I always jokingly say, like, out of your life like a TV show, and like you got like guest appearances through certain seasons and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
got some people that have come through for some guest appearances that I don't really talk to that much anymore. I'm not that close to. High school friends that I was like, see each other every day, hung out every weekend, stayed at my house, that I'm not that close to anymore. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I will never ever forget what they meant to me and how they
Mhm.
impacted my life and how I'm able to do everything I do now with such crazy odd confidence because all these people accepted me for who I was all these years. Whether
Yep.
I liked wrestling too much and nobody else liked it, whether I walked down the hallway and they called Batista to get my attention, whether I get drunk with them on the weekend to talk about how the world is our oyster and we can do whatever we want. Like, this is the craziest time in the world because it's like you literally could like become a writer, like like a writer that people believe in, and you don't even need to get a journalism degree because like vlogs and blogs, like,
Yeah.
I was like, like you don't even need a broadcast. You can just like start a podcast and like become an interviewer. Like, I used to say these things to my friends in our camera. Well, like, I don't even need a degree, man. I can do whatever I want. And everyone just put up with my BS, and here I am running with my BS, doing a bunch of crazy stuff.
That's insane.
And
Well,
I just kind of,
man,
yeah.
I kind of pretty much like answered all the questions that I actually sent to you, but one of the ones that I'm not sure if you answered it, you probably didn't. Besides wrestling, what are your other like passions in life besides, the wrestling classic page, false finish, besides the interviews, the podcasts, all that stuff. What else do you
I don't think I hide
motivates
it
you?
much. I think if anyone watches my stories or even my personal page, if you follow that, like my stories, I love nature. I love being outside. I love reading books. I read books a lot when I was a kid. I read all the Lord of the Rings books when I was like in grade 6 before the movies came out. I still love reading books. Now there's so many different ways to read books. I still love reading autobiographies and people's stories. I'll tell you, if I was to put everything, like what I'm really passionate about generally, into like one word, is I think I really just love a good story. Because I realize like everything that I really like involves there being like a good, like, I love movies, I love TV shows.
Mhm.
I'm like, if I didn't have the wrestling classic, I'd probably have the music classic because I love all from classic rock to hip hop, rap to Punjabi music to Bollywood music to classical music to like country music to, like, I have a playlist for everything, and pop. Like, I love music, and I think a lot of songs tell great stories. Or you can take any song and you can implement it into your own story, the
Yep.
soundtrack. Life. And sometimes I'll listen to a song and be like, oh, this would fit perfect in a TV show in this scene, or a movie in this scene. Or I'll listen to a song and be like, oh man, this would be the greatest song for like a wrestling video package. Or, like,
Yep.
I love the idea of like telling a story and something that's involving a story and getting sucked into like characters and stories. And I think that's why I love wrestling so much. That's why I love music so much. That's why I love movies and television so much. I love just talking to people and hearing their stories, or being involved with people's stories, like going out and hanging out with friends and family and just like go with whatever's happening and being spontaneous to create stories. So I think at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and someone passes away. They could be healthy, they could be unhealthy, they could be fit, they could be unfit, they could have the nicest car or have the shittiest car, they could work here or work there, they could be a millionaire or they could be broke. You'll remember those things about them, sure, but
Mm.
that's not what you really care about. You care about the stories. You care about, oh
Yep.
man, remember the time he did this? I remember the time we were all hanging out and this happened, or you remember how they impacted your life and the stories, right? Like that's what you remember of a person.
Yep.
Like my dad just passed away this year. I remember him as my dad and my relationship was with him, and watching him getting me into Bollywood movies and songs and Punjabi music, and just like taking him with me for, like, I just remember the time I don't give a I don't I no I can't sit here and tell you like my dad's bank account, he did this for a living, he had this car.
Yeah.
I don't care, like.
Yep.
And I think life is just a giant story, so you might as well make your story the best you can, because that's what people are going to remember. The
Yeah.
stuff with them, how you impacted their life, and just your stories.
Yep.
Why pass away and be like, man, someone's gonna be like, that guy's crazy. This guy liked wrestling so much he interviewed Stone Cold Steve Austin. Story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
like it's about the stories, and I think I don't know if that answers the questions about hobbies and passions. Yeah, like I can sit here and be like, I like long walks on the beach and going to the gym, and I like just chilling and listening to music and stuff. Like, yeah, I like those things. Yeah, I was a big hockey fan growing up, but
Yeah.
well, anything that involves a good story, that I can get sucked into, like some drama, and like just leave me with a good, I don't know, feeling or lesson, I'm with it,
Yeah. And let me I can kind of like circle it back to your like actual name, because you mentioned obviously, sorry for your loss, by the
Yeah,
way, with your father passing. And my father passed back in 2009.
yeah,
Um and he was, he was my wrestling, friend. Him and my uncle as well. Like, but
yeah,
he's from the South, so I grew up watching. They would get tapes of like Mid South wrestling, so I was more familiar with the Von Erichs, Butch,
yeah,
JYD, Dusty, all that stuff before getting into the East Coast wrestling, obviously
100%.
WWF. So I
You
went
were you were
backwards
with the
essentially.
territories, you were with the
Yeah,
territories.
I was a territory guy because my father is from born in Mississippi by way of Arkansas,
Yeah,
but his favorite wrestler back then was Junkyard Dog
yeah.
JYD, who would you can argue it, you could say whatever you want, but back then his popularity at the time would rival or could rival Hulk Hogan at the time.
No, right.
Obviously,
You're the biggest star in Mid-South, you're right.
yeah, and him
The
being
that whole story about him getting blinded by Michael P.S. Hayes, and then people
yeah,
wanting
the
and he would
fans trying to kill.
wear the sunglasses and everything, the
Yeah,
play on the
fans
blind.
trying to kill,
I'll tell
Michael
you one more
P.S.
story
Hayes and everything.
I'll tell you one more story
Um,
after we're done. But
but
yeah.
yeah, yeah, so that, like him, growing up on that, and like I said, him rivaling that popularity, and my father, like really, that was his favorite wrestler at the time. The Wrestling Classic, he, the person that won the Wrestling Classic tournament was Junkyard Dog,
That's crazy.
beating,
That's
being
right.
Macho Man Randy Savage. How
Savage
crazy is that?
main event, you're correct. That's nuts.
Try
But
to
that's
kind of like bring it full
a cool little
circle, and I
story.
just thought about it.
That's a cool little story. Like, I enjoyed that. Like, I enjoy things like that. I genuinely enjoy someone like give me coincidences or a story. Like, I'm gonna give you one last story, and we should probably wrap this up because it's like 2 hours long. I don't
Oh yeah,
know.
no, we're going
But,
crazy. Jeez.
like, you brought up the Junkyard Dog, and that it reminded me of that story about when Junkyard Dog got blinded, and the fans actually
Yeah,
tried to like stab PSAs, and Junkyard Dog was
yeah,
playing up the being blinded thing. He'd come there wearing his sunglasses every week. He
yep.
couldn't see, right? Like, it was like a real deal thing, right? So another thing that happened in 2020, and another reason why I forgot about this for a minute, that another reason why I wasn't so like excited to go back into doing interviews again was when I started the casual conversation thing. And once again, I was trying to just interview people that I knew, that I had
Yeah.
like a proper relationship with, that will like I could reach out to, and it wouldn't be like hard to like be like, hey, just come on here. And one
Yeah.
of those people was Shad Gasper, because I was just in California in
Oh,
February 2020, right before the pandemic, and I saw Shad down there. Went out with with a couple of friends out there, and Shad was at the bar too. I saw him in New York the year before that. Every time he saw me, he'd always treat me like I was an old friend. Like, he just really vibed with me. So when we did the first casual conversation, me and Shad, which I think
wow.
was like my second or third interview, he's like, dude, it's a pandemic, we're on lockdown, all my stuff's on hold. He's like, why don't we start a podcast? So we did another casual conversation. And then we did 3 more episodes of NFG Radio because when I asked him, like, what do you want to call it? He goes, let's call it No Fucks Given. I'm like, listen. And then this tells you that I knew something was going to happen on my page. I'm like, I keep getting in trouble anyways. Like, maybe we should call like NFG Radio because I'm so under their radar that I keep getting in trouble for like the dumbest things. Like, before the page got taken down, I was getting in trouble for the dumbest things. And then so like, let's call it NFG Radio. And so we went on there and we did episodes, and they're all on my YouTube channel. So guys, they're not monetized. If they are, let me know. Because I don't want them to be monetized. It's not like that. And they're also available in audio form on wherever you listen to podcasts, Energy Radios. Check them out. Honestly, it's weird to me now because now looking back at it, it feels like a memoir to his life because we literally talked about his entire life from a teenager being a bouncer to getting into wrestling, being Mike Tyson, like something with Mike Tyson. I forget what it was. I think it was like Mike Tyson's bouncer for something, security or something. I don't even know. It's crazy stories. Like this guy in like the span of 3 episodes of just as regular podcast, because the first 2 were casual conversations and like we talked about a bunch of wrestling stuff for sure, but like the last 2 episodes, like one of them was literally just about his life. And the last one we did, because we would always stay on after we ended the episode, like we'd still like be on here and talking to each other for like 30 minutes to an hour or whatever. And we got off the last episode we did together, and I started asking for advice about some stuff I wanted to do, and he was giving me advice. And then somehow, I don't know how we got there, he starts telling me this whole story about the Junkyard Dog being blinded in Memphis wrestling. And Michael, I think it was Michael PSAs, I might be wrong, but someone blinded Junkyard Dog.
No, it was.
Everybody wanted to kill him and
attacking
him and this and that. And I just reminded me of that right now. So I was like, that was one of the last conversations I had with Shad was we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but one of the last things we talked about was this whole Junkyard Dog angle. And he was so excited telling me about it because he's still such a wrestling fan. He's like, that was the coolest thing. Like, you don't even know. Like, everybody thought it was real. And I and then that he went out swimming that day, and then the next day was missing, and then et cetera. But I think one of the things that also gave me a lot of confidence was Shad being like, when I said, let's start this, okay, do you want me to start your YouTube channel? He's like, no, put it on yours. Do you want me to start your Instagram? No, let's promote through yours and mine.
Wow.
And he's like, I want to do this for you. He's like, you're like, there's a lot of people that do stuff, but he's like, you're really knowledgeable. Plus, you're also really respectful and professional and positive about the stuff. And he's like, I want to do something for you so you pop off. And I'll never forget that. And unfortunately, he passed away, and it sucks. And but what do I remember now? Right? It's a story. He's starting a podcast with, this guy was in Crime Time. He was on WWE television. He did all these amazing angles. He was in movies. I don't remember any of that. That's cool. Great. I remember him being a friend for me that tried to do something for me for no good reason other than like he wanted to see me succeed because he believed in me. That's what I remember about Shad Gaspard. That's the story I remember. I remember the story about him telling me about the Junkyard Dog. That's what I remember about Shad Gaspard. And that goes back to what I was trying to say is that you can do all these amazing things and you can be all these amazing things. And that's great. I've been the wrestling classic to you for all these years, right?
Yep.
You'll probably remember me and you having this conversation more than anything else I ever did before.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what people don't understand. Like, everyone has the power to make an impact on someone. Me going to that WrestleMania hotel and Dakota Kai getting like happy to see me, that meant a lot to me. Natalia telling me to come back the next day because she didn't get the chance to talk to me and she really wanted to meet me. That meant a lot. Me meeting Kathy Kelly and her stopping me like, no, I appreciate you. Like, we really appreciate what you do. That meant a lot. Me walking in there and Rosenberg and Ryan Satin and all these people that are doing all these cool things that I look up to.
Yep.
Remembering me on site without me even saying, hey, it's me. They're like, yo, Johnson Wrestling Classic, what's up? I'm like, oh, I'm still that person. They know who I am. That means something to me. That's what I remember. More than anything they do for their careers or whatever. I remember the way they made me feel because technically we're all a little selfish and that's just the truth of the matter. So
it's true.
Good stories, leave people with good stories, leave an impact on people, be a good person. People don't forget it. You think they will, but they won't. Trust me. Like, You never, dude. There was another point where I felt like, man, I have no direction. I don't know where I'm going with this stuff. And I was sitting exactly where I'm sitting right now. And I was just chilling, watching Dynamite. And MJF was like, I was on this page called the Wrestling Classic.
Oh man, I remember I watched that.
I was
That was
like, what?
amazing.
I was like, did he just, because I didn't, like, he said shout out incoming. I didn't know he meant like on TV.
Yeah, he said it. I remember seeing it. I was like, holy shit, he just mentioned the Wrestling Classic on in his promo.
And then there was
Insane.
a handful of like WWE wrestlers that hit me up. And I was like, dude, if we weren't so scripted, we'd shout you out all the time. And like just all those little comments and all those little things. And someone, will get some people like they might make fun of me like being very like still getting excited about like someone give me a shout out of recognizing me. Like, why do you get excited? That's so marky. Like, no, because it means a lot. And I want to
No, it's
remember
awesome.
when it happens. I don't ever want to forget someone like giving me attention when they don't have to. Like it
Yeah.
means that's what it's about. It's not about me like chasing cloud. I want to show people. It's me wanting to be like, man, like,
Yeah.
you don't have to. Like, that's really
Yeah.
nice to do that because there's no expectation. Like, I shouldn't be important to you, but you make me feel important, and I need people to know that you're cool enough to do that.
Yeah. You didn't call him and say, "Hey, put me in your promo."
Oh, I didn't, man. I literally messaged him like a week before that, saying something a little sentimental, like I don't give. I said some crap, like not crap. That's just me trying to downplay it, but I said some
Yeah.
stuff like, I was like, listen, I don't care how famous or popular you are, man. I always got love for you. I'm like, you're still the Max I remember from the beginning, And he's like, thanks, man. Shout out incoming. I don't know what that meant. Like, I didn't know what he meant.
Wow. Now you
I had
know.
no idea what he meant from that. I was like,
On national TV.
then he gave me a shout out on a story about some clip I posted from an interview I did with him years ago in like 2017. I was like, oh, maybe that was a shout out. He gave me a shout out in the story, whatever. I don't think it was gonna happen. But as he was telling the story in that promo, like he's telling the story, like, oh, I got bullied, I went to school,
Yeah.
football degree, I didn't want to be there. I was like, oh, this is a true story. Because I know his story. That is a true story. If anyone that didn't know or was questioning it, like a lot of the promos where MJF gets serious and talks about his life, like 95% true. Like they're not like he might like exaggerate certain things and like spice it up a little bit here and there, but like they're not even like that promo was like 99% true. Like I don't know if like there's some things I don't know for sure, like about like the younger like getting bullied and getting nickels thrown at them. I don't know if that exactly happened.
Yeah.
But they're going to college, the university thing with the football, and they're going home to like that's all true. He kind of told the same story again where he told his dad he wanted to do this, and my dad said, I'll give you, university would have taken you 4 years. I'll give you 4 years to make it. It's all true.
That's insane.
So as he was telling that story, I was like, oh, he could say it. Because him looking at a picture on my page. So here's the thing. To anyone that really wants to know. I don't really know if it was that CM Punk shaking hands with Daniel Bryan picture. He did like that on my page. He did comment on it, but once again, he was a follower of the page and liked and commented on a lot of things.
Yeah.
My knowledge, my memory of it, it was a Roddy Piper promo I posted that he saw on my page. And then he drove home and told his dad he wanted to be a wrestler because he watched this promo and he's like, that's what I just felt like that's what I want to be doing. And it was this Roddy Piper promo. Obviously, storyline purposes, he said it was this picture of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan shaking hands, which also could be true. I could have posted those two things on the same day. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Or it could be true. It could have been a Roddy Piper promo, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan shaking hands, a picture of Brie Bella. Like, I don't know. Like, it could have been a plethora of things that he saw that day. But it was cool. That was another cool moment. But yeah.
I always leave off with this before I sign off. I always ask a question before the end of the show. It's obviously wrestling related. So if you could pick one match for somebody that's on the fence about getting into professional wrestling, what would that match be that's going to pull them in and just make them a fan instantly right when they see it?
That's tough because there's a lot of good wrestling matches, but if it's someone that's like on the fence and doesn't watch a lot, it wouldn't be a really good wrestling match. People think that's when I answer that, they're like, why? Because I'm like, nobody cares about a really good wrestling match if you're not a wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put on Kenny Omega and Okada for someone that doesn't.
Oh no, they gotta be like, what the hell is this shit?
Think that's super cool because you like this. A regular person's gonna be like, why am I watching this fake fight so hard? And so it's I mean I off the top of my head I'm like Undertaker, Mankind, Hell in a Cell,
Okay.
TLC, WrestleMania 7. One that I actually love showing people. Here's a hidden gem one because those are very common, right? Those
Yep.
two I just named are very common. And I mean, when I say like I wouldn't even show someone that's on the fence about wrestling, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker from WrestleMania 25, because that's still like I feel like you need to be a wrestling fan to appreciate that match,
Yeah, I
right?
think so. Yeah.
So I'm thinking like one match I actually love showing people that is like so over the top and silly and crazy, but like a lot of like memorable people are in it, like people they saw like throughout their life or like seen generally is there's a match on one of the early SmackDowns in September. Okay.
Okay.
And it's a buried alive match. And it's The Rock and Mankind versus The Undertaker and The Big Show. And I love showing this match to people because I'm like, just keep watching it. The longer you watch it, the more crazy it gets. There's that whole bump where like the Big Show throws the Mankind from the stage and he bounces
Oh,
on
and he bounces.
into the like the thing. And that enough is like people are like, what's going on? Then these guys like hitting each other with shovels, like for real. Triple H gets involved, China gets involved, Kane gets involved, and then to top it off, when it's all said and done, an ambulance comes out to take, like, I think it was the Big Show into the ambulance, and then Triple H is trying to like load the Big Show into the ambulance or something, and then Stone Cold pops out of the ambulance, beats the crap out of Triple H, throws him in the back of the ambulance, drives the ambulance to the back, jumps into a semi truck, and crashes it into the ambulance. And this all happens in one match. And I was going to show someone that's never watched wrestling a match. I would show them that because it's like they'd be like, what happens next? Like, did Triple H die? Like, how, is that man buried alive? And is Mankind okay? Like, and people know those names. Like people know The Rock, people know Stone Cold, people know
Mhm.
Triple H, people know Kane and The Undertaker. So it's like I love showing people that because it's so ridiculous. And I think
Yeah.
the match needs to be ridiculous. Like you would have to show them like a stadium stampede or something for them to like the stuff that hardcore wrestling fans might think or like wrestling purists might think is silly is the stuff you might have to show someone that's on the fence.
Exactly. That's the gateway. That's how you get people in. Like mine, I always say WrestleMania 8,
Yeah.
Roddy Piper and Bret Hart is
A great
my
wrestling banger, but there's a lot of emotion in that, so that's fair actually.
yeah, so it's not like they're like it's not a technical match because Roddy Piper, if you know, not a technical wrestler.
Yeah.
So it's brawling, it's technical, it's literally it's like you said, it's drama, it's everything. It's the highs, the lows. It's like a perfect like storm of if without the crazy zaniness of the
Yeah.
shovels and buried alive stuff. But if you want to see,
Of the attitude era, right?
yeah, if you want
Well,
to,
in that case too, then I've always loved and appreciated Savage vs. Warrior at WrestleMania 7. Savage Warrior
yes,
WrestleMania
that's one of
7,
my favorite
because then you
matches
also
too.
got the whole love story at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
you
oh,
have
you got a match.
Elizabeth.
You have to be like you if you expect like the loser, this has to retire. Like the career. Then you already have the drama there. Then it's like, oh, and now this guy's manager turns on this random woman that's in the crowd, comes out and reunites with him, and it's this big emotional moment. The Warrior's looking for his powers in his hands. Like, why can't
Yeah, it's
Savage literally had the match won, but decided to keep going for flying elbows for God knows what reason. The madness, like, and
oh,
it's
so good.
over the top characters. Like that's what's gonna sell people on wrestling. It's the over the. I mean, there was a point on my page like where because that's what I enjoyed the most is like I should be posting people's promos all the time. I was talking
Yeah,
about
I
like
remember that.
why do you think my page was so popular? I was posting moments that people remembered, beer trucks and this and that. I wasn't posting full length matches until later because that's what people remember the moments.
Yeah.
I could share a Ric Flair promo on my page and as a video, and I can share clips or highlights from Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. That Ric Flair promo is going to get shared more because that's more universally understandable.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega in that ring and the story they're telling, you got to kind of already be a wrestling fan to understand that.
Yep. No, exactly.
But the guy is saying limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, my shoes cost more than your house.
Yep.
Anyone's going to find that funny.
Yeah, it's getting hard to keep these gators down. That's
That shit's
anyone can relate
universal.
to that.
That shit's universal. The man's dropping elbows on his jacket, losing his mind. That's entertaining. Like, why does Macho Man sound the way? Where does he keep getting these cream packets from?
I know, right?
the cream rises to the top. Like, he kept pulling them up. Where is he pulling
Yeah,
them?
where the hell? He's a magician.
Yeah,
Macho
like,
the magician.
what's more universal than a good wrestling match? And I think if I was to like give advice for the wrestling industry right now, is give things that are more universal than just giving stuff that's catering to the fans that you're gonna have regardless of the fact.
Yep. Exactly.
I'm not the biggest
Perfect.
fan of Orange Cassidy's title reign, but I understand why the character is very popular.
Yeah. I love
Because it's
Orange Cassidy.
universal. Anyone might watch Orange Cassidy and be like, what is this? And I might want to see more. You know?
He's interesting. And
Yeah.
that's all that matters. He has a gimmick that pulls you in. Oh man. This is great. Thank you for the I mean,
2 parts or something.
this is I might nah, it's gonna be like a Joe Rogan-esque. You have to sit here and listen to the whole 2 hours and 19 minutes. But no, man, this is
Getting to 4 hours here.
I know, right? This is amazing. I could talk forever. If you didn't know by now, I can just keep on going on and on. But
I thank you for having me. Thank you for trying to make me feel special and like I was important to be on here.
Now you are special.
If you go from me, it's like an upswing. You keep getting more analysis, you know?
That's the plan.
Where do you
Anyway.
live? Where do you live?
I live in Massachusetts.
I'm telling you, bro, just go to if there's ever a wrestling convention there, go take a microphone. You'll get a bunch of no's. You get their promoters being like, F no, you got to pay them. But you'll get one guy that will say yes, like a godfather, and then you get that interview. You know,
I could have. I actually went to one recently, about a month ago, and it was Chaotic Wrestling. It's a local wrestling organization around here. I could have gotten an interview, but it was at a brewery. Everyone was drunk. I was drunk.
I've been like I said, man.
There's no way I was going to conduct an interview.
You know, you live so like if that opportunity comes up again, then you're like, oh, maybe I can get an interview out of this.
Yeah.
It's just a little of those things. Once again, it was me showing up and just meeting people to make network connections. And it was just, you know, keeping them and just asking, man. I learned at some point you just gotta ask. And sometimes someone will say yes, sometimes they'll say yes and never happen, and sometimes they'll say yes and make it happen. Sometimes they'll say yes and they'll wait till they have something happening in their life to come back to you and be like, hey, do you want to do it now? And I'm like, oh, you just had nothing going on, so you didn't want to do it. I get it. But
one thing I learned in retail is an offer rate. You just offer. You just keep on offering. You're gonna get a bunch of no's. You're gonna get a bunch of no's, and then eventually someone's gonna say yes.
I know a lot of advice. This thing, and the other thing, last piece of advice I'm gonna give, and this one I'll say solo without saying everything else again, is just like one of the other things that I learned I learned a while ago, but it's a very important thing, right? Like I talk about, like I think everyone has an ego, and sometimes we got our egos hurt and whatnot. But I learned to not take things personally. Rejection, if someone doesn't do something, if someone doesn't respond to you, if someone leaves your DM unseen, no, don't take that personally, because you never know what someone's going through in their life, or if they're having a bad day, or it might not look like it on social media because social media is fake. You know, you never know, so just don't take it personally. Sometimes it's not even about you. It could be. I'm not saying there's like a slim chance they might not like you. They might find you annoying, but they might just not want to do it. But there's also a huge case that's not the case. There's probably a larger case that's not the case. But sometimes the case they just don't know who you are. They don't know enough about you. I just think just don't take things personally. Like, do your best not to take things personally. Because sometimes it's business, sometimes it's not even personal, sometimes it's their own problems. It's not them. It's an actual thing. And there's been many times where I thought someone was ignoring me or didn't want to talk to me. I even just told you the whole story earlier about like the social media guy that I thought didn't like me, but ended up helping me so many times. 2 years, and I went like 4 or 5 years thinking this guy didn't like me because he brushed me off and said hit me up with a DM, and I thought like, oh, he doesn't want to talk to me. He's not going to respond to my DM. He actually probably meant hit me up with I'm just an idiot.
So, he's being direct with you. We say just do that.
Like he's like, I'm busy, hit me up with the DM, I'll get back to you. He knew exactly, you know what I mean? So like, don't take things personally, don't overthink things. I'm a notorious overthinker. I know it's harder to do than it's easier said than done. But that's the last thing. Just don't take things personally. Try your best.
Definitely. Not to. Words of wisdom. And we'll end it there. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful audio journey. It's been a blast, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Talk to y'all later. Ooh, yeah.
Peace.